Marvel, it starts when it links with a great clock of the Super God Academy. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26. The entire solar system is flickering. 101 received the order from Black Widow and immediately went to investigate. But no matter how she rang the doorbell, no one answered. In the end, in order to complete the mission, she had to force her way in. However, the manor was empty. Li Qingyun was not there, and Banner was not there either. "Sir, they are not here." Agent 101 tapped her ear lightly and was connected to Black Widow. "Not here?" Black Widow was surprised. "Did you see them leave today? Did the other hidden agents around find anything unusual?" Black Widow had to find out the situation quickly. "No, we have been keeping an eye on the situation in the manor. If they go out, even if it is very secret, we should be able to detect clues." Agent 101 was also confused at this time. There were so many of them stationed nearby, and there were people watching them 24 hours a day, day and night. There were even several layers of covert and covert measures. How could they not even know how the other party left? The flickering of light in the universe continued. The sunlight visible on the earth and the light reflected from the moon were flickering from time to time. This situation has lasted for more than a minute. If the source is not found, the climate environment of the earth will be affected, and the temperature of the earth will start to drop. Nick Rui was very anxious, and Black Widow, who was directly responsible for Li Qingyun's line, was even more anxious. In fact, Li Qingyun himself was helpless now. He stood in the desert, looking up at Hulk, who was trapped in the micro-wormhole of the big clock in midair. The green big guy was no longer irritable at this time, but he began to get addicted. Every time he slapped, the sky would dim. This TM is like a voice-controlled switch. It lights up once, and when the children see it, they will have fun, right? I say, big clock, if this continues, the whole world will be in chaos, right? Li Qingyun couldn't talk to Hulk, because Hulk didn't talk to him at all. Now he could only see if there was any other way for the big clock. The earth is in chaos. The big clock is always observing the global situation. Now the whole earth has been in chaos because of the flickering light of the sun. Ordinary people think that the world is coming to an end, that God is punishing them, that they are crazy. The main institutions of various countries are frantically looking for the cause of all this. All astronomers and physicists have been pulled out to study what is going on. SHIELD already knows the cause, but the problem is that they can't find Li Qingyun. SHIELDs all over the world have begun to search like crazy. Starting from Li Qingyun's manor, it spreads to dozens of kilometers around. There are also other SHIELDs that are not in the surrounding area, but are also trying to find out if there is anything wrong with the situation around the world. Fury, Iron Man's communication. Because of the development of new elements, Iron Man has already understood the relationship between SHIELD and his father, so Iron Man, who originally kept a distance from SHIELD, has now had some contact with it. The communication number of the director of SHIELD, Nick Ray, is what he just got recently. "Stark? What do you want to see me for now?" Nick Ray didn't have time to care about other things now. "One of my Stark Industries satellites detected a strong energy fluctuation over Africa." Iron Man knew the current situation on Earth. As Stark Industries has its own satellite, Iron Man is naturally using his own ability to find the source of the change. And it just so happened that his satellite was passing over Africa at that time, and then it just happened to sense the energy anomaly there. Africa. Nick Ray was a little dumbfounded. How could it be in Africa? It was half a world away from where Li Qingyun originally lived. Agent 101 clearly said that he saw Li Qingyun and Banner in the manor last night. How could they run to Africa in just one night? And what were they doing in Africa? "Can your satellite see what the specific situation is?" Nick Ray asked. He had to know as soon as possible what was going on. Communications in that area were blocked. If the energy fluctuations were not too strong, they might have been beyond the control of the other party. "I'm afraid my satellites would not be able to detect it," Iron Man answered. "There are so many satellites in the sky on Earth today, but more than 10 minutes have passed since the incident began, and no one has been able to find the source. Such a major event, such a strong impact, can only be discovered by Iron Man by chance, which is enough to show that someone is deliberately controlling this situation. Naturally, the one controlling all this is the big clock. The reason why it cannot be completely controlled is that Li Qingyun does not want it to use the core energy of the sun. At the moment when Hulk's thunderbolt palm exploded, the big clock needed to adjust more energy to maintain the existence of the wormhole, so it just gave a little gap, allowing the Stark Industries satellite, which happened to be over Africa, to sense it. Otherwise, with the computing power of the big clock, if it really wanted to hide, it would be impossible for anyone on Earth to find any clues. Hill, who is in Africa now, Nick Fury immediately turned around and asked Agent Hill. The mission list shows that Barton is the closest to that place. He is now over the Mediterranean Sea. Agent Hill quickly called up the SHIELD senior agent mission distribution map and looked for the person closest to the scene of the incident. Tell him to turn around immediately and search according to the location given by Stark. We must find the source of the incident in the shortest time. The entire Earth and the entire solar system are flickering. Although this flickering is only intermittent, and each flicker will recover in an instant. But this has lasted for nearly 20 minutes. According to the real-time monitoring of scientists, the temperature of the Earth has dropped by nearly 0.3 degrees Celsius. If this continues, the Earth's climate may undergo a huge change. If this situation continues for more than an hour, it may directly trigger the arrival of a small ice age. If it exceeds 2 hours, it will directly enter the ice age, and the entire Earth's ecology will undergo subversive changes. Under such drastic changes, humans will inevitably face a huge crisis, which may lead to the extinction of most of the population. The previous 16, 17, and 18 chapters have been integrated into one chapter, mainly by deleting unnecessary content and adding a section in which Hydra secretly reveals the protagonist's situation to Whiplash. If you want to know more, you can go back and watch it. If you don't watch it, it won't affect you. I will also explain it in detail when Hydra is involved in the future. In addition, please forgive me if it affects your viewing experience. After all, I am a novice and have no experience. Chapter 27. Wouldn't it be nice to lower the temperature a bit? After only 10 minutes, Hawkeye Barton appeared in the sky above the Sahara Desert, and immediately caught the source. In fact, the Hulk floating in the air was too easy to identify. Moreover, the energy generated by the thunderbolt palm that Hulk slapped from time to time would burst out circles of shock waves. The sound was also very loud. "Sir, I found the source of the incident," Hawkeye said, and the camera on the plane directly captured the scene. That was Hulk in midair, constantly falling freely, or quickly moving after slapping a thunderbolt palm. The camera could not capture the existence of the wormhole, and Hawkeye could not see the appearance of the wormhole. But there is no doubt that this weird scene was enough to make Nick Fury, who saw the video screen, dumbfounded. He even immediately sent a video to Iron Man and asked him to analyze the situation. After all, Iron Man and Tony Stark can be regarded as geniuses in the field of science, and he was also actively involved in this incident. Stark was shocked when he saw the video in front of him. There seem to be 3 space channels that are connected to each other in the 6 directions of Hulk, namely, front, back, left, right, top and bottom, which makes Hulk trapped in the space formed by these 3 channels and unable to leave. Jarvis analyzed it, and simulated it with a data model, and quickly calculated the direction of Hulk's position transfer, so he came to the conclusion. I know this, but the question is, how are these space channels formed? Stark can naturally see Hulk's current situation. But the question is, how is this situation formed? Moreover, the rhythm of Hulk's clapping and the flashing of light in space completely overlap, which clearly indicates that there is a practical connection between the two. I can't answer. Jarvis has artificial intelligence like the big clock, but the configurations of the two are very different. Jarvis is just a running software that relies on the existing network system of Stark Industries. The big clock is a galaxy-level material computer. As the greatest and most powerful celestial computer, the big clock is completely beyond the reach of Jarvis in various fields such as intelligence, computing power, and technological applications. Nick Fury didn't understand what was going on even more than Stark. But Nick Fury knew that if this matter was not dealt with quickly, the consequences would inevitably lead to a huge disaster. I can't explain everything I saw, but there is no doubt that this should have been done by Li Qingyun. Stark's eyes were locked on Li Qingyun, who was standing in the desert and watching right below the video. Hulk was having fun in the area blocked by the wormhole, and Li Qingyun was watching below. Moreover, Li Qingyun had always been with Banner, and Banner's transformation into Hulk might also be inseparable from Li Qingyun. Barton, I understand, sir, Hawkeye naturally understood what Nick Fury meant. He drove the plane to a position not far behind Li Qingyun, picked up his equipment, and came directly to Li Qingyun. "Hello, I'm an agent of SHIELD. My name is Barton." As soon as Barton came over, he immediately introduced himself. Li Qingyun had known Hawkeye was coming a long time ago. The moment he turned around, the big clock had already told Li Qingyun. But Li Qingyun had no time to pay attention to him. Nor did he have time to pay attention to the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Iron Man on the other side of the Earth. The big clock was maintaining the normal operation of the wormhole. Because the energy that could be mobilized was too little, the computing speed was stuck, which led to the current phenomenon. Since Li Qingyun had already started this time, he did not intend to end it so easily. It is better to solve the problem once and for all than to keep trying later. I came here on the orders of Chief Fury, and I have an obligation to tell you that if this situation continues, the temperature of the Earth will continue to drop, which is very dangerous for the Earth. Hawkeye saw that Li Qingyun did not answer him, and immediately explained the situation. "Lower the temperature, isn't that just right?" Li Qingyun spoke. "What did you say?" Hawkeye was a little dumbfounded. Li Qingyun's answer caught him off guard. Nick Fury and Stark, who had been keeping track of the progress of the matter, were also at a loss at this time. Over the past 100 years, the temperature of the Earth has been artificially disturbed and has risen by more than 1 degree. Now it has only dropped by 0.5 degrees. In comparison, it is far from enough. Li Qingyun also cares about the environment of the Earth because he is on the Earth. But the big clock is precisely controlling it. It knows the Earth best. In the past 100 years, especially since the beginning of the new century, the global temperature has actually been rising rapidly in an abnormal state. The average temperature of the entire Earth has risen by at least 1.3 degrees compared to more than 100 years ago. 1.3 degrees does not seem to be very high, but this overall temperature increase will cause serious deviations in local temperatures. Extremely high and low temperature weather phenomena continue to occur in some areas. Environments like the North and South Poles, which originally require low temperatures all year round, will be affected by the rise in temperature and cause drastic changes in the entire ecosystem. Nowadays, the big clock intermittently mobilizes the solar energy shining on the Earth. Although the temperature begins to drop, as long as the drop is not too large, it will not be harmful to the Earth. On the contrary, this overall drop in small values will gradually restore the environment of the Earth. The first is that the melting rate of ice and snow in the North and South Poles will slow down rapidly, and the rate of sea level rise will also slow down. The overall temperature regulation will lead to a more perfect effect on the entire Earth over time. Although the Earth's temperature will continue to rise due to the existence of humans. But at least, this regulation can slow down the rate of rise for many years. You are right. A slight drop in temperature is good for the Earth. Stark's voice came out. He was speaking through the broadcasting system on the plane behind. But if the temperature drops too fast or too low, it will have a huge impact on the Earth and will cause a disaster, Stark reminded him, Nick Fury, and all the scientists on the Earth who observe this situation. What they are worried about is never the current slight drop in temperature. What they are afraid of is the continuation of the temperature. After all, it only affects humans. Li Qingyun sighed, but he also gave Stark and Nick Fury a reassurance afterwards. This process will not last too long. Hulk's mood has gradually stabilized. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28 Hulk is easy to appease. Li Qingyun raised his head and looked at the Hulk, who was getting quieter and quieter. He was irritable when he first appeared, and then he was trapped in the wormhole. Until now, his mood has slowly stabilized. He clapped his hands and played like a child, but he was tired of it now. He began to put away his fists and turned his eyes to Li Qingyun. As long as you promise me not to hit people or smash things, I will let you out. How about it? Li Qingyun asked. Such a scene made Nick Fury and Tony Stark, who were watching the situation here through the video, concentrate and watch. This is Hulk, the most violent and powerful monster discovered by mankind so far. If Li Qingyun can really stabilize Hulk's emotions, if the two sides can really communicate smoothly, this will be a major breakthrough. Maybe from now on, there will be no more green monster named Hulk on the Earth. Instead, there will be a superhero named Hulk. If you promise not to use this thing to trap me again, I won't hit you, Hulk spoke, with extremely clear words, not howling. Okay, we have a deal, Li Qingyun said, and did not forget to make a bet with him. Whoever doesn't keep his word will be a slug, the kind of slug that crawls on the ground and can only be stepped on to death. Okay, Hulk didn't know what a slug was, but there was no doubt that he didn't want to be a weak thing that could be stepped on to death. Get ready, I'll count 123, and the wormhole that trapped you will disappear. 1, 2, 3, after the voice was finished, when Hulk appeared in the wormhole at the top again, the wormhole under his feet had disappeared. He did not repeat the free fall, but landed smoothly and directly on the ground. The moment he landed, he rushed up suddenly. Hawkeye, who was standing next to Li Qingyun, saw the Hulk suddenly rushing over, and was so scared that he turned around and ran away immediately. But Li Qingyun took a step forward and pointed his finger at Hulk. Hey, whoever doesn't keep his word is a weakling. Li Qingyun's words made Hulk, who was about to beat Li Qingyun to vent his anger, stop immediately. He stood not far in front of Li Qingyun, pounded the sand on the ground twice, muttering, Hulk, don't be a weakling. Hawkeye, who had already run more than 10 meters away, was stunned at this moment. Nick Fury and Stark, who were watching all this through the video, were stunned at this time. Li Qingyun, he actually did it, communicating normally with Hulk. Alice. You finally stopped, Li Qingyun sighed. I said you are really amazing. I almost mobilized the power of the entire sun, and it almost failed to trap you. Li Qingyun's sigh was full of flattery, flattering Hulk's power. This was the way to communicate with Hulk analyzed by the big clock. In Thor 3, the approachable Hulk is recognized and appreciated by everyone. Hulk is very irritable and powerful. But his character is very simple, just like a child. If you are harsh to him, always scold him, and treat him as a bad guy, his temper will become more irritable, and he will destroy things uncontrollably. But if you recognize and praise him, he will be very happy and will be happy to be your friend. That's right, I'm awesome. Hulk was very proud. At this time, he sat down on the sands and patted the seat next to him, motioning Li Qingyun to sit over there. Li Qingyun was not afraid of him, so he walked over and sat down there. The two people, one big and one small, sat side by side. Hey, do you want to come over? Hulk looked at Hawkeye not far away and shouted directly. Hawkeye wanted to refuse, but at this moment, Nick Fury gave him an order to come over. Nick Fury's intention was obvious, because he felt that this was a good opportunity for Hawkeye and Hulk to become friends. As long as they became good friends, maybe when Hulk appeared somewhere else in the future, Hawkeye could go over and persuade him, which was a great thing. But the problem was that Hawkeye was afraid. This was the Hulk, a guy with a bad temper, strong strength, and a punch that could crush a tank. If he sat next to him, and he lost control of his emotions and slapped him directly, wouldn't his life be frozen to death? Go over quickly, Nick Fury was still urging. There was no other way. Hawkeye was an agent, and it was his duty to obey orders. Although he was afraid in his heart, he had to go over even if he was afraid at this time. However, he still kept a watchful eye and did not sit directly next to Hulk, but walked to the side of Li Qingyun and sat down there. Hulk didn't have that mind either, and didn't know what Hawkeye meant, so he didn't care. Hulk, is this your name? Li Qingyun was chatting with Hulk. Yes, the Incredible Hulk. Hulk waved his arms, showing off his muscular body. Yet, he is quite invincible. Li Qingyun nodded and said, in terms of strength alone, no one on Earth today can be your opponent. This is the truth. In terms of strength alone, no one on Earth today can be the opponent of Hulk. But in the future, it is hard to say. Captain Marvel can directly arm wrestle with Thanos, and can withstand Thanos' headbutt without any problem. Hulk's strength is probably really not comparable. And Li Qingyun, he is very weak now. But he has just become a super soldier, and his super gene is only the first generation. When he gradually masters his own strength, and when his super gene can adapt and upgrade to a higher level with his own adaptation, he will definitely be able to beat Hulk. You are also very powerful. That invisible Hulk can actually trap me. Hulk will be generous in praising others when he is praised. I mobilized the energy of the entire solar system to barely trap you. If you hold on any longer, I will have to give up, Li Qingyun said. Ha, that's, Hulk smiled proudly. What about you, are you very powerful? Hulk walked around Li Qingyun and looked at Hawkeye Barton. Hawkeye shuddered. Being stared at by Hulk like this, he felt a little weak. He can shoot arrows, the kind that never misses, Li Qingyun answered Hawkeye directly. Archery, is that all? While speaking, Hulk pulled out a quiver from the quiver behind Hawkeye and played with it in his hand. Be careful, don't pinch it, it will, bang. Chapter 29. Okay, it's done. Hawkeye's bow and arrows are all specially made. Some of these arrows can be used as grappling hooks. Some can be used to anesthetize the enemy. Some can explode. The one that Hulk just pulled out has a small bomb on the arrow. Hulk just squeezed it hard, and the bomb inside was squeezed by gravity and exploded directly. This explosion scared Hulk, and Hawkeye, who was sitting next to Li Qingyun at this time, was more frightened than him. He quickly turned over and was ready to escape again. But in the end, Hulk did not run away directly. He just froze for a moment, then suddenly threw his hand and threw the arrow out. No, this thing, the power is too small. Hulk would get angry when he was attacked because it was a provocation to him. But this time, he took the small arrow himself and squeezed it to pieces, so although he was scared, he was not really angry. These bows and arrows of mine are used to deal with ordinary people, but you are not an ordinary person. Hawkeye finally understood at this moment that although Hulk looked scary, he was actually not that dangerous. At least, when no one deliberately provoked him and no one attacked him, he was not much different from ordinary people. At most, he was a little childish. But isn't this childishness a kind of purity? That's it, Hulk said proudly. I was commissioned by Banner to communicate with you. Can we talk now? When Li Qingyun said this, the big clock was always observing Hulk's emotions. Hulk was obviously very dissatisfied with Banner. Because for Hulk, Banner restricted his appearance. What? He always wants me to disappear all day long. Hulk was like a wronged child. Obviously he did nothing wrong, and even saved Banner because of him. But Banner tried every means to eliminate him, even at the cost of suicide. What if I make him acknowledge your existence and never go against you again? Will he? I can convince him. Hulk began to ponder briefly. This big guy has his own ideas. If he doesn't go against me, I won't bother with him. Hulk waved his hand, which was considered to be an agreement. I can also discuss with Banner. If you can still keep your distance like you do now, I will let you out every 2 months. Li Qingyun took the opportunity and began to throw out more negotiation content. That won't work. 2 months is too long. 1 month, Li Qingyun continued to test. 1 week, Hulk also gave his own opinion. Banner still has to help me with research. If he has to switch with you once a week, the frequency is too high, Li Qingyun complained. I risk so much danger to help Banner communicate with you. How much energy did I spend to calm you down today? You can't let me have no benefits at all. Li Qingyun deliberately showed this to Hulk. And Hulk obviously fell for it. Li Qingyun helped him communicate with Banner, so at least he could come out at a fixed time in the future, and he wouldn't have to be restricted by Banner like before. He couldn't be stingy with his friends, especially those who were willing to help him, or the first to admit that he was a human being. Then half a month, I'll come out once every half a month, Hulk made a concession. Okay, then half a month, Li Qingyun agreed. Anyway, he was trying to reach the negotiation conditions as much as possible. The reason why he said 2 months at the beginning was to give Hulk a chance to bargain. In fact, even if he really came out once a week, as long as Hulk didn't disrupt it, it could be regarded as Li Qingyun fulfilling the agreement with Banner. As for coming out once a half a month, it can be discussed later. For example, if Hulk comes out for a longer time, then Banner will come out for a longer time next time. Or it depends on the specific situation. If there is an alien invasion one day, and Hulk wants to come out to fight, can Banner stop him? Now that I'm out, I don't plan to go back immediately. Hulk has been holding it in for a long time, more than half a year. The anesthetics that Li Qingyun provided to Banner made Hulk's genes enter a paralyzed state. Therefore, Banner's emotional regulation and control over Hulk have been greatly improved. Then what are you going to do? Li Qingyun looked at Hulk in confusion. I don't know, Hulk shook his head. Although he was out, he really didn't know what to do after he came out. Every time he came out before, he destroyed everything along the way and smashed everything he saw. But now, he can't smash it randomly. Then come back with me first, I'll take you to experience the life of a human being formally. Li Qingyun stood up. He was the one who created Hulk, and he also proposed the negotiation conditions, so he had to keep an eye on him. Okay, Hulk grinned. But I've made a deal. If you follow me, you have to listen to me and be gentle. If you destroy my house, I won't let Banner let you out in the future. If you insist on coming out, I'll make a wormhole and throw you into outer space. Li Qingyun made 3 rules with Hulk. Although he used the money he got from Stark and earned it in the financial market with a big clock, he has lived there for so long that he has already regarded it as his home. Who wouldn't be angry if his house was destroyed? Oh, Hulk answered cautiously. He didn't want to be locked up by Banner again, and he didn't want to be thrown into outer space as soon as he appeared. But what is outer space? Hulk was confused. He didn't know outer space, but he knew that Li Qingyun could trap him. And Li Qingyun warned himself by throwing him into outer space. I guess outer space must be more terrifying than trapping it like this. Li Qingyun stood up. He walked to the front, pointed his right hand in the air, and a micro-wormhole began to expand continuously, becoming a wormhole entrance large enough to accommodate Hulk. The wormhole is invisible, but when Li Qingyun opens it, the big clock will change the brightness of the light, so that people who cannot sense the micro-wormhole can also see where the wormhole is. Let's go. Li Qingyun walked into the wormhole first. Hulk followed him in without hesitation. Hawkeye, on the other hand, was originally here to investigate the situation. Later, when Hulk asked him to come over and sit down, he just did it. Now, do you want to go with him? After hesitating for a while, he finally stepped in. This is a chance to get along with 2 monsters with superpowers. Nick Fury will definitely not want him to miss it. Chapter 30. If there is a next time, there will be no SHIELD in this world. Everything was normal in Li Qingyun's manner. However, Li Qingyun had known for a long time that the SHIELD agents had forced their way in. Li Qingyun was very upset about SHIELD's extremely impolite behavior. If you dare to enter my house again, there will be no SHIELD in this world, Li Qingyun said, and his words were transmitted to the director of SHIELD, Nick Fury, in real time by the big clock. Now he is already a super soldier, and he has mastered the micro-wormhole transportation technology and is very proficient in sensing dark energy. Today's Li Qingyun is no longer the ordinary person who needs to be cautious. Moreover, it is very simple to deal with SHIELD. Just expose the shameful things they have done in recent years directly on the internet. Including the part about Hydra. Barton, tell Li Qingyun that he made such a big noise, and we just want to investigate the situation. Nick Fury sent a message to Hawkeye Barton, who was following Li Qingyun and Hulk. No matter how much noise I make, that's my business. You can't enter my house without my consent. Li Qingyun didn't wait for Hawkeye to talk to him, because he knew what Nick Fury said. The big clock, even when controlling Hulk, still monitors the information of the entire Earth. It can know whether it is connected to the internet or not, or even if a teenage guy is hiding at home and masturbating. In the past, it was just that Li Qingyun didn't want to show it. Can you monitor my screen in real time? Nick Fury's face was gloomy. The first time he received a sudden message from Li Qingyun, he was already surprised. Now Li Qingyun knew what he just said, which shocked Nick Fury. I still have to go out with Hulk to play. If you don't want to make a big deal, just be quiet. Li Qingyun didn't answer Nick Fury, but just gave him a warning. At the same time, he would contact special agencies in surrounding cities to inform Hulk's situation in advance. Hulk is an irritable person. If you really take him out to play and a group of police or military people come to arrest him, the consequences will be unpredictable. There is no future in SHIELD. Do you want to come to me? Li Qingyun turned around and looked at Hawkeye Barton, who was standing beside him with a confused look on his face. SHIELD is good. Hawkeye still has a good impression of SHIELD. In fact, the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe has a good impression of SHIELD. The World Security Council has directly become the boss of SHIELD, and the 5 major member countries are all involved in it. Its SHIELD branches are almost all over the world. Okay, Li Qingyun didn't care about Hawkeye's opinion. He just asked casually. Although this is not my original world, the nature of this country is still similar. Should I take care of it? Li Qingyun turned around and looked at the sky outside the house. He could actually understand the approach of this world, this big country in the east. After all, this is not a normal world. Superheroes, supercriminals, and some weapons beyond common sense have already appeared. When facing some supernatural phenomena, participating in international organizations to deal with them together is also a good solution. But the problem is that SHIELD is not a good bird. On the surface, it is jointly led by the 5 major member states, but its headquarters is in the United States, so in most cases, it is under the control of the United States. Moreover, Hydra has long been infiltrated into S.H.I.E.L.D., and Hydra has even begun to guide the entire S.H.I.E.L.D. in secret. It would be great if there was a S.H.I.E.L.D. here. Unfortunately, this is a movie universe. There is no such setting, Li Qingyun sighed. The big clock has already checked the situation of the entire Earth. All hidden forces, if they really exist, have naturally been discovered long ago. Today's Earth, there are actually only 3 superheroes: the sleeping Captain America, the high-profile Iron Man, and the semi-retired Ant-Man. Hidden in the dark, the magicians of Kamartaj, the Eternals dressed as humans, and the so-called Ten Rings gang. Big Clock, can you locate Wenwu directly and kill him with one shot? Li Qingyun didn't like Wenwu. In fact, he didn't like everyone in the movie Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Before traveling through time, as a Marvel fan, he hadn't even watched this movie. Sure, Big Clock gave an immediate answer. Forget it, it's my business if I don't like it. There's something wrong with the movie, and I don't know what the real person is like. Li Qingyun still gave up this idea. You can't just kill the other person just because you don't like him before traveling through time. He didn't provoke you. By the way, is there any way to improve your computing ability? Li Qingyun remembered the time when the wormhole was used to besiege Hulk today. Logically speaking, with the computing ability of the Big Clock, it shouldn't be difficult to solve the Hulk and his state at that time. As long as the energy problem is solved, everything can be solved. The Big Clock can solve the universe, so solving a Hulk is naturally a piece of cake. Energy problem, Li Qingyun pondered. He knew that the Big Clock's performance was not good today because he had limited it. Since we cannot use the core energy of the sun, we have to collect the scattered energy to deal with Hulk, so it is not surprising that there is a shortage. Moreover, the Big Clock is not just to solve the Hulk. It also monitors the situation of the entire Earth at the same time, and is ready to provide energy support for Li Qingyun at any time. I can access multiple stars at the same time to enhance the absorption and use of energy, but if you don't actively absorb the energy inside the star, some super calculations are still difficult to run. The best way is to find a replaceable energy source. Of course, you can also choose to upgrade to the 3rd generation of Divine Body at the fastest speed, build your own dark matter plane space, so that you can use dark energy more efficiently. In this way, in battle, you can directly mobilize dark energy to use. The Big Clock only performs calculations and provides powerful computing support when necessary. The super warriors of the Super God universe can master multiple energies at the same time. The most primitive bioenergy, followed by light energy, dark energy, and void energy. Bioenergy is the most primitive energy, and any life form will have it. The power displayed only by oneself is bioenergy. Super soldiers who only have biological energy are the weakest super soldiers. If they are the 1st generation, they may be only slightly stronger than Captain America. For specific situations, you can refer to Liu Qingyun and Jezai Island, whose super soldier genes have just been activated by Reina. Operations such as breaking the air conditioner with bare hands and smashing the floor with a head can still be done. Chapter 31. The goal is to find an infinity stone. Light energy, dark energy, and void energy are 3 types of energy in the universe. Among them, light energy and dark energy are the most common. Stellar energy is light energy, and this energy is also used by celestial computers such as the Big Clock. Because light energy conversion is simple, it can be connected to the celestial computer in the simplest way, allowing the celestial computer to solve quickly. The destructive power of light energy is also very significant. Most of the time, super soldiers or weapons of super god technology will use light energy to fight. For example, all flame-level weapons are driven by light energy, that is, stellar energy. Dark energy is stronger than light energy and has a wider range of applications, but the use of dark energy is more complicated than light energy. Dark energy is almost everywhere in the universe. It only accounts for 68.3% of the mass in the universe, but its distribution range exceeds more than 99%. Because, outside of any non-material structure, there's dark energy. Sensing and controlling a certain amount of dark energy is almost a standard configuration for a super soldier. As for void energy, it is amazing. It has the power to subvert the universe. As a celestial computer, the Big Clock uses light energy and stellar energy. Now we need to find a way to improve the computing speed and efficiency of the Big Clock without destroying the sun. There are only 2 ways. One is to expand the scope of calling stellar energy and connect to multiple stars in the universe at the same time to achieve an increase in the total amount. But this method actually causes a great loss in the efficiency of energy use. First of all, to absorb stellar energy in the universe on a large scale at the same time, this process requires continuous consumption of energy to maintain the absorption process. After all, it is across such a long distance, and it is definitely impossible to gather energy in one place without consuming energy. Secondly, the computing effect of the big clock will be dispersed in part to maintain the energy absorption program. The more it needs to absorb, the more it needs to be dispersed. Although, with the ability of the big clock, there will be no obstacles when using it. But this is like a computer. Although it does not freeze when you play two games at the same time, these two games are actually consuming computing memory at the same time. Of course, for the big clock, the process of collecting energy across regions may be just like hanging up QQ. But what if one day you want to play League of Legends, open a dungeon to do street activities, open QQ Music, open Widget, and happen to open a web page? When it comes to the last resort, this cross-regional energy absorption operation can only be forced to stop, and instead directly extract the energy of the star itself. Therefore, in order to avoid this uncontrollable situation, another method is needed. That is, to find an alternative energy source. In the Super God universe, this approach is very difficult. Because in the Super God universe, there is no simpler and cheaper energy than stellar energy to replace. But this is Marvel. Although it is only the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there are still too many other energies to use here. The first one is the 6 Infinity Stones. Each of the Infinity Stones has infinite energy. As long as you find one, you can directly replace a star. And it is the kind of star that you don't have to worry about being drained. If the 6 Infinity Stones are found together, it is equivalent to having the energy of the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe at the same time. By then, don't even talk about the daily calculations of the big clock. Even if a big operation like Kesh's search for an heir is changed to once every 3 days, once every 2 days, and a must-do every day, it's not a big deal. So, I have to find an Infinity Stone. At this moment, Li Qingyun determined what he was going to do next. In other words, in this Marvel Cinematic Universe, in addition to mastering the Great Clock, he has another practical goal. That is, to obtain the Infinity Stones. The most likely ones to get at present are the Cosmic Cube and the Mind Staff. Li Qingyun already had a target to choose from in his mind. The Cosmic Cube is now in the hands of S.H.I.E.L.D. According to the time calculation, Loki may come to Earth with a Mind Staff in a short time. Of the 6 Infinity Stones, only 3 may appear on Earth in a short period of time. The Time Stone is with a Supreme Sorcerer Ancient One, and I will definitely not be able to get it. Thor will have to take the Cosmic Cube back to rebuild the Rainbow Bridge. Now we can only focus on the Mind Staff. Li Qingyun's thoughts became clearer and clearer. In the original timeline, no one knew about the information about the Mind Stone and the Mind Scepter. After the war, S.H.I.E.L.D. took it away for safekeeping, but actually gave it to Hydra to study artificial intelligence, and in the end, it accidentally created an Ultron, inexplicably bringing another disaster to the Earth. In that case, why not just give it to me? I'll use it to replenish the energy of the big clock, and it can also help you save a little more stellar energy. Isn't this much better than using it to study artificial intelligence and create an Ultron? Now, not only do we have a goal, the ideas are clear, and even the reasons are fair and above board. Hawkeye, Hulk, let's play fighting. Okay, with a short-term goal, the next step is to prepare for achieving the goal. First, it is to develop one's own super genes and improve one's combat capabilities. And in this world, nothing is easier to improve combat effectiveness than fighting. Fighting? Hawkeye was stunned for some reason. Okay, fighting is good. Hulk clapped his hands and cheered. We have agreed in advance that you have to listen to me on how to fight. The first rule is, don't get impatient. This must be agreed with Hulk in advance. If Hulk suddenly gets impatient during the fight in practice, and the fake becomes real, Li Qingyun may not be able to withstand it. Okay, Hulk agreed. But you also have to promise that you can't use your hole to trap me. Hulk also has things he doesn't want to experience. He can't do anything about the wormhole. Well, you guys just fight. Can I not get involved? Hawkeye regretted it now. Why did he come in with them at that time? Now, these two people want to practice fighting, and they want to drag him in as a sparring partner. With his small body and his little ability, is he enough for these two freaks to practice? No, since we are already here, We can't escape. Li Qingyun will not let Hawkeye go. Fighting with Hulk is to practice close combat such as physical fitness. But fighting with Hawkeye can really improve combat and tactical literacy. I just found out today that there is a piece of data called chasing reading. I'd like to ask for it here. Chapter 32, The Test of Becoming Familiar with Your Own Strength. This is a ruin with broken walls and ruins everywhere. Li Qingyun stood in the middle of the ruins. Without the help of the big clock, he had to rely on his own perception of dark energy and analysis of dark data to determine the whereabouts of Hawkeye Barton, who was hiding in it, and the Hulk who could jump out at any time. This was Li Qingyun's training. He had to deal with Hulk and Hawkeye alone. Ling. A slight buzzing sound passed through the air and flew from a dark corner. It was a bow and arrow, shot by Hawkeye Barton. This trick is useless. Li Qingyun punched directly in the air, and a wormhole was immediately formed at the place of his fist. The arrow fell into the wormhole and disappeared completely. The big one is coming, Hulk's voice came, and then a huge broken wall was thrown from a distance. Li Qingyun stepped back quickly, staring at the broken wall while paying attention to the direction it was thrown from. Hulk was speeding towards this side. Hulk's attack came from the front, and it was also what Li Qingyun needed to deal with most seriously. Hawkeye Barton might be elusive, but his attack was not very threatening to Li Qingyun. Most of the time, he was just a distraction. All Li Qingyun needed to do was to determine what kind of arrow Hawkeye shot, and then adjust the wormhole in time to transfer it, or dodge it quickly. And if he failed to dodge Hulk's attack once, he would suffer a very heavy blow. Just like this broken wall, it is a thick wall with a length and width of more than 1 meter. Coupled with the force thrown by Hulk, the impact force generated at the moment of landing is not less than that of a bomb. Whoosh! Another arrow was shot out from another angle that Li Qingyun had never thought of. It's a high-temperature smelting arrow. This kind of arrow can be said to be the most powerful arrow in Hawkeye Barton's quiver. After hitting the target, it will quickly release ultra-high temperature enough to melt steel, melting itself and the target together. Li Qingyun is now a super soldier, but he is only the first generation of super soldiers. Facing this kind of attack, he must dodge it. Arrows that can easily melt steel can also melt his body. His body quickly fell backwards, and when it was about to touch the ground, he supported himself with both hands, and then did a backflip. The moment his body leaned back, he dodged the arrows. The backflip was to open up more distance and try to avoid being approached by Hulk. You really didn't hold back at all, Li Qingyun complained, but he didn't dare to pause for a moment. But you let the two of us besiege you. It's too late to complain now. Hawkeye was running and moving quickly. He was an archer, and he was also an ordinary person. In this sparring match, he could be said to be the weakest one. Because no matter whether it was Hulk or Li Qingyun, if they chose to target him, he would be knocked down in a few moves. Therefore, in order to play his role, he could only choose to hide himself, rely on the advantage of long arms, and interfere from time to time. Wait until I am familiar with capturing information, and I will definitely find you out as soon as possible. Without the help of the big clock, Li Qingyun relies entirely on himself. The development of super genes is not enough, and he does not have special abilities, let alone the transformation of the dark matter plane space. For example, the Qiyangkan of Jezailan, which can greatly improve combat power during combat, or is used to preset and improve algorithms, is not available in the dark matter plane space. Even the Eye of Insight, Li Qingyun does not have it. The super gene form of the space principle is basically a blank slate, which is a benchmark for entering the field of super soldiers. But the problem is that how to develop on this benchmark specifically, you have to fill it in slowly according to the needs of super soldiers in the future. Li Qingyun's current physical condition is the body of steel, the improvement of physical fitness, the perception of dark energy, and the micro-wormhole transportation technology that he spent several months to master some time ago. The improvement of physical fitness can bring super strength, super endurance, super speed, and super fast reaction speed. But Li Qingyun had never trained before, so he couldn't fully display his skills. Therefore, Li Qingyun took on a difficult task right after he arrived. Not only did he have to fight with a big guy Hulk, but he also had Hawkeye Barton standing by to make trouble for him from time to time. What are you talking about? Watch my punch. Hulk rushed forward and came to Li Qingyun again. He clenched his right fist and punched Li Qingyun in the face. Hulk, who has a violent aesthetic, would not show any mercy even when sparring with his friends. If this punch really came down, even Li Qingyun would probably be smashed into the ground. Wormhole, his brain spun at high speed, and a wormhole was immediately summoned behind Li Qingyun. He retreated into the wormhole and disappeared in an instant. Hulk's fist slammed down, but it only made a big hole in the ground. "Hulk, watch your back," Barton reminded him, and at the same time, an arrow broke through the air and shot at the position behind Hulk. Li Qingyun, who had just come out of the wormhole, was behind Hulk, where the arrow was hitting. With his observation ability and reaction speed, Hawkeye was born to be an archer. No wonder he could be in the Avengers, a team full of weirdos, with his mortal body. Li Qingyun, who was falling in midair, grabbed the arrow with his left hand, threw it away, and then quickly crossed his hands in front of him. Hulk heard Barton's reminder and punched him back. It was too late for Li Qingyun to calculate the wormhole again. He could only use his hands and feet to protect his vital parts to reduce the impact of Hulk's punch. Bang! Hulk's fist, as big as a sandbag, hit Li Qingyun's body, and Li Qingyun's body was directly smashed out like a cannonball. The force of this punch was very strong. Although Li Qingyun protected his hands and feet in front of him, he still felt paralyzed at this moment. "You hit him so hard, will he be okay?" Hawkeye came out of the corner anxiously and looked up at the sky. "He's not that fragile." Hulk turned around and looked at Li Qingyun, who was hit by him. Indeed, he seems to have hidden some of his abilities, and he is not familiar with his own strength. Hawkeye agreed with Hulk's opinion. Li Qingyun was not weak, on the contrary, the real him was very strong. At least, his reaction to the opening of the wormhole was obviously not as strong as when he trapped Hulk and negotiated with him before. Chapter 33: An Unknown Instruction. Super soldiers, when they have background support and when they don't have background support, present two completely different states. With a space-based computing group, any clone of Holy Hexy can beat Angel Yan. Angel Yan, who is loaded with the support of the Skyblade No. 7 computing engine, can beat 8 clones of Holy Hexy. Although Holy Hexy did not exert his strength at that time, there is no doubt that this is also the best example. Li Qingyun is a super soldier, and his background support is the celestial computer Big Clock. Even if Li Qingyun is only the first generation of super soldiers, with the blessing of the Big Clock, beating Hulk is like playing. When Hulk was trapped before, it was forced to be trapped without hurting him, and there were energy restrictions. But if the purpose is to defeat Hulk, Li Qingyun will use a wormhole, and with the help of the Big Clock, he can definitely beat Hulk to death. And now, in order to develop the potential of his own super gene, Li Qingyun did not use the assistance of the Big Clock at all. "Do you need to carry the Thunder attribute gene factor?" the voice of the Big Clock sounded. Super God technology can collect and integrate certain special elements, and then directly carry the abilities of these elements into the genetic program through dark data programming. In the Super God universe, the Demon King Morgana once gave a large number of abilities to her believers and some small demons in this way. The most given are fire and lightning, but the rarest is rubber. Could it be? Haha. As a super soldier, it is very easy for Li Qingyun to carry this super power factor with his super gene. Previously, Li Qingyun had used the Big Clock to solve Thor's hammer, integrated the power of Thor's hammer into himself, and stimulated the power of Thor. At that time, the Big Clock had actually recorded and collected part of the lightning factors. After this period of analysis, these lightning factors have been completely analyzed by it, and it can already merge these lightning factors with Li Qingyun's own super genes. It can let Li Qingyun have the power of lightning again. "Oh my god, when did you do this?" Li Qingyun understood what the Big Clock said. In the past few months, he has been concentrating on studying micro-wormhole technology and dark energy scheduling. Although he knows some of the capabilities of the Big Clock, he has not taken it seriously. Li Qingyun knows that the super gene fusion ability gives it supernatural attribute power. But he doesn't know that the Big Clock actually retained Thor's lightning factor when he used Thor's hammer. "Big Clock, I remember you said that you are just a machine, right?" Li Qingyun suddenly realized that the Big Clock may not be as simple as he imagined. "Yes," the Big Clock gave an affirmative answer. "I also remember you said that you will not violate any instructions issued by your controller, nor will you operate on your own, right?" Li Qingyun's question has pointed to a more serious problem. At this moment, Li Qingyun did not even land again. He hovered in the air and transferred himself to a dilapidated high-rise building with a micro-wormhole, standing there quietly. "From the time you took the initiative to contact me at the beginning, to contacting Iron Man without my consent, and some things afterwards, you started to execute without my consent." Li Qingyun's tone became solemn. The problem this time involved the relationship between him and the big clock. Is he controlling the big clock, or is the big clock controlling him? This question is very important. I once received an order to guide you to gain power before you can truly master the big clock. The big clock did not hide it, it told the truth. However, the truth was even more confusing. It once received an order, but the question was who would send the order to the big clock, and this order also had a higher authority than itself. I only ask you one thing, now, who is your highest authority owner? Li Qingyun asked the most critical question. The big clock is a machine, it only obeys the orders issued by its highest authority owner. If he is indeed the highest authority owner, then it doesn't matter who issued the previous order, because he can directly change that order. Yes, you are the highest authority holder, and currently, the only authority holder. The big clock still gave a positive answer. Li Qingyun was confused, but he felt relieved. However, he still needed to confirm it. Give me the full content of the instructions you received earlier. Li Qingyun gave the order directly. Then, a command message appeared in front of Li Qingyun. The content of the order was exactly consistent with everything Li Qingyun had come into contact with so far. Imitate Li Qingyun's tone and make initial contact with Li Qingyun in an anthropomorphic form. Take the initiative to guide Li Qingyun to become a super soldier, and you can directly contact Iron Man to obtain startup funds. Take the initiative to collect supernatural factors that appear around Li Qingyun, including Thor's factor, Hulk's factor, Eternal's factor, Celestial Group's factor. The content of the order included 3 items in total, and there were some more detailed things, but Li Qingyun no longer needed to pay attention to them. However, the content involved in this last item still shocked Li Qingyun. Thor factor and Hulk factor, these 2 types can be understood by Li Qingyun, but the Eternal factor, Celestial factor, and the ellipsis at the end clearly mean including, but not limited to. So, how many supernatural energy factors have you collected now? Li Qingyun was very confused and curious. The big clock, this big clock that belongs to him, can actually perform such a coquettish operation behind his back. Currently, a total of 3,618 types. 3,000. Li Qingyun was completely stunned. 3,681 types. Where did this number come from? In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the total number of superheroes that appear is less than 1% of the number here, right? More than 3,000 types. How did you collect these, and where on earth do so many supernatural energy factors come from? Li Qingyun asked 3 questions in a row, but they can actually be classified as one question. How did the big clock collect so many supernatural energy factors at once? Since you wanted to use me as a foundation to gain more power, I have already begun to explore this universe. From then on, all the abnormal information has been recorded in my database. The big clock gave an answer, but its answer made Li Qingyun dumbfounded. An unknown instruction had already paved the way for Li Qingyun without his knowledge. But the question is, where did this instruction come from? Chapter 34 3,000 Supernatural Factors. More than 3,000 supernatural factors, where do they come from? Li Qingyun still can't figure out how the big clock collected so many supernatural factors, and how can these energies be obtained so easily? This world is much more complicated than the Super God universe. The big clock gave the answer. In just over half a year, on Earth, I have detected more than 1,000 mutant factors. Add to that the mutations caused by supernatural substances and special energy interference, and the power hidden in the dark, more than 3,000 supernatural factors. On Earth, there are more than 2,000. The longer the big clock explores the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the more it discovers the complexity of this world. Fortunately, after arriving in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the big clock was in the dark matter plane space, and its exploration could be carried out in the universe, but no one could detect its existence. Otherwise, with the complexity of this world today, the big clock might have been targeted by others before it explored much of this world. This Marvel Cinematic Universe is inherently very complicated. Li Qingyun could accept this situation. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is complex in itself. And as the movie progresses, it will become more and more complex. Now that Li Qingyun and the big clock really exist in this world, they will find that what they see is the whole picture of the world. Its complexity will be even more complex than the movies that Li Qingyun has seen. It is precisely because he knows the complexity and danger of the Marvel Cinematic Universe that he wants to become stronger and wants to master the big clock as soon as possible. In fact, Without this power, mortals in this world are just a group of lambs to be slaughtered. What level are these more than 3,000 supernatural factors? Li Qingyun no longer bothers about where the instruction received by the big clock came from. For a time traveler like him, the time travel itself is outrageous, and everything else is still reasonable and principled, which is simply nonsense. As long as he can become stronger, as long as what he wants to do is not restricted by others, then everything else has nothing to do with him. Before the time travel, no one cared, saying that it was personal freedom, but in the end, he was still helpless everywhere. This is what he dared not think of in his previous life. Most of the supernatural factors are just ordinary things, and the value of development is not high. There are also some that are similar and can be classified into the same category, especially the mutant part. The big clock began to display the detailed information of these supernatural factors. It seems that in order to facilitate Li Qingyun's understanding, these supernatural factors are automatically divided into multiple categories, and each category is arranged from strong to weak. Among these categories, there are a few that Li Qingyun has paid attention to as soon as they appeared. Thor factor, Hulk factor, Eternal factor, Celestial factor, Chaos factor. Of these 5 factors, the first 2 are okay, but the last 3 are more terrifying than the other. The Eternals, a race created by the Celestials, have been hiding and have not taken any specific action so far, but this race is not weak. The most outstanding representative among them is Thanos. Thanos is from the Eternals, although for some reason he also has the genes of the Inhumans. So he has become so strong. The Celestial factor is even more powerful. They are the legendary managers of the universe. They create galaxies, create life, and then are born from the life planet. Li Qingyun can also guess where the Celestial group factor collected by the big clock came from. This must be the Celestial group that is hidden in the earth and has not yet taken shape. Chaos factor, should it be the factor of chaos magic? This should be Scarlet Witches, and there is a bracket after the chaos factor in this list, and the word, hidden, is written in the bracket. So, this is the chaos magic factor that Scarlet Witch has not awakened yet, but is already contained in her body. Can I fuse all these factors? Li Qingyun was excited. If he could fuse the chaos factor directly, then Li Qingyun would have already stood at the top in this universe, so why would he need to think about anything else? Currently known, the Thor factor is the most suitable for fusion with you. Other factors are either too weak, or they may cause damage to the super gene itself, or may produce uncontrollable mutations. The big clock first asked Li Qingyun whether it was necessary to fuse the Thor factor, and there was a reason for this. Hulk's factor contains uncontrollable rage. The Eternal factor is not as strong as the Thor factor. The Celestial factor is too powerful. If it is fused with a super gene, it may directly break the structure of the super gene itself. The Chaos factor is even more uncontrollable. The current big clock can only take samples, and there is no time to analyze much. Earlier, you summoned Thor's hammer and controlled Thor's hammer with the body of the first generation of super soldiers. After mastering Thor's power, it did not have any adverse effects on yourself. Moreover, according to the detected data, the super gene in your body will become more active after being affected by Thor's power. From this, it can be judged that the effect produced after you combine with Thor's factor will definitely have miraculous effects. Perhaps you can take a new path where the super gene and God's power are combined. The big clock's analysis of Thor's factor is actually more from the data that Li Qingyun integrated into his body when he personally controlled Thor's hammer. With the most real data, the most accurate analysis can naturally be made. Therefore, the first supernatural factor fusion suggestion he gave was Thor's factor. The combination of super genes and God's power to take a new path. Li Qingyun couldn't help but fall into deep thought at this moment. He still remembers the state when he held Thor's hammer. He felt that the thunder in the world was all for his own use, as if he had become a part of nature. With super god technology alone, in this universe, even if you reach the peak, you can only become a hegemon at most, but you can't transcend it. The Celestials, the 3 elemental forces, the infinity gems, the 4 cosmic entities, these are all difficult for super god technology to surpass. In addition, there are the powers of the multiverse and dimensional universe, such as Dormammu. If you want to truly transcend everything and have the power to protect yourself under any circumstances, it is indeed the best choice to take a stronger path based on the Great Clock. Li Qingyun's thinking has gradually become clear. At this moment, he has also made up his mind. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, It means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35, Fusion of Thunder God Factor to promote to second generation gene. It's confirmed. After the Thor factor is integrated, it will only enhance my supernatural power, but it will not affect the super gene, right? Li Qingyun was making the final confirmation. No, the big clock answered affirmatively. There will be no problem with the entire series of upgrades later, right? Li Qingyun asked again. From the first to the fifth generation of divine bodies, and the development of other super divine technologies, there will be no conflict, the big clock continued to answer. Okay, then start, integrate it for me. Li Qingyun closed his eyes. He was ready to accept the integration of this supernatural factor. The big clock immediately began to perform its operations. The surrounding dark energy began to be mobilized, and in the dark matter plane space, an extremely small energy substance flew out. This energy substance directly drilled into Li Qingyun's body and began to merge with his original super gene. This small portion, after being integrated into the super gene, immediately began to split. Under the constant attention of the huge dark energy, its energy factor continued to expand, and then continued to split, and finally completely merged with all the super genes. Li Qingyun, who was standing on the tall building, had a faint electric current flowing through his body. What is Li Qingyun doing? Hawkeye, Barton and Hulk were standing on the ground at a loss, watching Li Qingyun from afar. Something is not right, Hawkeye frowned, and he felt that Li Qingyun must be doing something special again. After all, since Li Qingyun appeared in the side of S.H.I.E.L.D., he has made a lot of big noises one after another. Boom! Thunder suddenly came from the sky. The sky, which was originally cloudless, began to slowly appear a lot of dark clouds, and the flashes of thunder in these dark clouds became more and more frequent. Is this weather phenomenon caused by Li? Hulk didn't like to call Li Qingyun by his name, and he didn't like to call him Little Li, so he just called him Li. It was originally cloudless. Even though the weather in this area is changeable, it is impossible for it to become like this in such a short time, Hawkeye answered. Just as he finished speaking, a violent lightning bolt suddenly emerged from the clouds. This huge lightning bolt, as thick as an arm, struck Li Qingyun directly. However, Li Qingyun, who was struck by the lightning bolt, was not directly electrocuted into charcoal like ordinary people. Instead, after the lightning bolt fell on him, it immediately merged into his body. It was as if the lightning bolt was summoned by Li Qingyun and actively absorbed by him. The next moment, they saw Li Qingyun floating in the air. Lightning continued to spread on his body, and thunder continued to strike in the clouds in the sky, connecting with the lightning on his body. It's confirmed, this is Li Qingyun absorbing lightning, Hawkeye sighed in his heart. This guy who suddenly appeared was indeed doing those incredible things again. The fusion of thunder and lightning factor is complete. The super gene has completed its first upgrade, breaking through from the first generation and entering the second generation. The sound of the big clock rang in Li Qingyun's mind. Li Qingyun's super gene is the most primitive model. Originally, it should be upgraded after Li Qingyun fully mastered the application of his super soldier's body, and then absorbed more dark energy with a continuous development of the super gene. Now after the integration of the Thunder God factor, the powerful energy is infused into the super gene, which makes the energy level of the super gene in his body increase rapidly. The original first generation of super genes began to upgrade because of this sudden powerful energy. In the Super God universe, the first generation of super soldiers have actually become cannon fodder. In fact, apart from the simple improvement of their physical fitness, there is not much difference between them and ordinary people. Although they are called steel bodies, the development of weapons in the Super God universe has been very complete. Various flame-level weapons, as well as the God-killing number 1 bullet, and even the God-killing weapon have begun to be equipped by most super soldiers. Especially when a super soldier has a weapon made of a special metal like dark silver, the first generation is equivalent to leek that can be harvested at any time. When the super soldier enters the second generation, his ability begins to improve further. In fact, the real first and second generation super soldiers do not actually have dark matter plane space. The first generation before the space principle is actually a simple gene enhancement, which can allow organisms to obtain physical fitness far beyond their peers. After entering the second generation, The birth of the gene engine allows organisms to gain strange powers, fly into the sky and hide in the ground, and control wind, fire, thunder and lightning. But Li Qingyun's super gene is actually guided by the big clock and is completely based on the model of the space principle. Therefore, the moment he became the first generation, he directly opened the dark matter plane space. And this dark matter plane space was opened up by the big clock. Although, there is no equipment in this dark matter plane space now. But because of the existence of this dark matter plane space, the first generation Li Qingyun can also achieve immortality. Now Li Qingyun's promotion to the second generation is an upgrade at the genetic level. It is also an addition of powerful energy to his original genetic engine, which allows it to play a greater role. Now Li Qingyun is no longer limited to physical strength, nor is it as simple as relying on dark energy to sense micro wormholes and open wormholes to fight. If Li Qingyun knows how to use his dark matter plane space, if he can collect enough resources from this moment on and start building his own dark matter plane space, then Li Qingyun can be said to have power that many third-generation super soldiers do not have. However, all this is still too far away for Li Qingyun. Being able to upgrade the original super gene and make his ability stronger is already a good effect for Li Qingyun. The road must be taken step by step, and the meal must be eaten bite by bite. Li Qingyun has to explore this process from a mortal to God. At this moment, he has a lot of feelings in his heart after being promoted to the second generation. But he has not been able to fully transform these feelings into a practical plan. So, he just wrote it all down, waiting for his thoughts to become clearer, and then he would start one by one. Chapters 16 and 17 more changed a little bit. This rookie wrote and revised the book as he wrote it. Dear readers, please understand. Chapter 36 Loki finally comes. Li Qingyun collected the lightning power released from his body. He slowly descended to the ground, landing in front of Hulk and Hawkeye. So, you only took one punch, and then you upgraded. Hawkeye didn't know what Li Qingyun's specific situation was, but there was no doubt that Li Qingyun could control lightning now. When they fought before, Li Qingyun obviously couldn't. The super gene in my body has undergone a small upgrade, Li Qingyun answered casually. Could it have something to do with a hammer last time? Hawkeye was carrying out the investigation of Thor's hammer with Kelson. At that time, Thor's hammer just flew away from their eyes, and then suddenly flew back. They saw the whole process. Afterwards, Black Widow also said that Li Qingyun summoned Thor's hammer himself in order to deal with Whiplash. But in Black Widow's opinion, Li Qingyun's action was simply unnecessary. At that time, he jumped to a height of more than 100 meters. With that jumping power, his strength was much stronger than Whipcord. He could have easily dealt with Whipcord with his bare hands. In the end, he smashed Whipcord into a pool of mud with a hammer. But for this matter, Hawkeye didn't understand it before, but now he understands it. Li Qingyun actually didn't know much about his own strength. He obviously had a fighting power that was not inferior to Hulk, but he couldn't use it. This was caused by lack of experience and knowledge. Obviously, Li Qingyun now realized all this. So he asked Hulk to be his sparring partner and asked him to come with him. It's a little bit related, Li Qingyun said. Let's continue. Li Qingyun has now obtained the power of thunder and lightning. In the next battle, he will definitely perform better. It's agreed in advance that you can't use your lightning to hit me, otherwise I can't bear it, Hawkeye spoke quickly. He kept in mind that he was just a mortal and must not let Hulk or Li Qingyun attack him. Don't worry, I will never strike you with lightning. Li Qingyun knew what Hawkeye was worried about, and he immediately assured him. Just keep shooting arrows like before, and then I will fight Hulk one-on-one. Li Qingyun's goal was still clear. He fought Hulk one-on-one, and Hawkeye was only responsible for interfering from the side. This increased the difficulty of Li Qingyun's battle, but at the same time, it could also help Li Qingyun adapt faster to the unpredictable changes on the battlefield. Even though Li Qingyun knew that with the assistance of the big clock, he would basically not encounter any unexpected situations. But it is always better to be prepared. It lasted for nearly 2 months. Li Qingyun, Hulk, and Hawkeye were constantly fighting in the ruins of the broken walls. As the battle became more and more intense, the streets that used to see 1 or 2 complete buildings from time to time had now collapsed. Hawkeye was the first to withdraw from the battle, because there was no place for him to hide, and the impact of the battle between Li Qingyun and Hulk was becoming stronger and stronger. If Hawkeye stayed on the battlefield, he might be affected by the energy that exploded one day. Li Qingyun originally asked Hawkeye to stay in order to increase the difficulty. Now that Hawkeye can no longer play the role he should, Li Qingyun will naturally not stop him. Therefore, Hawkeye no longer participated in this trial, and because Nick Fury had a new task arrangement, he soon left Li Qingyun's manor. "You two are too crazy, fighting every day, taking up all my time." In the manor, in front of the dining table full of delicious delicacies, Banner was complaining helplessly. This was his third appearance in more than 2 months. The previous 2 times, he only came out in a hurry for 2 or 3 days, just to figure out the relationship between himself and Hulk. At the same time, he was also afraid that Hulk's long-term appearance would affect Banner's spirit. "I have agreed with Hulk that I will compensate you in the future." Li Qingyun could only comfort him with kind words. In fact, this time he needed a strong opponent to join forces, and Hulk also wanted to have fun. The two of them hit it off and then had fun. "Alice," Banner sighed helplessly. "You can fight if you want, at least Hulk won't destroy everywhere like before." Banner's mood has always been stable, and that's why. As long as Hulk doesn't destroy everywhere, as long as he doesn't become a huge threat to ordinary people in this world, it's just occupying some of his time, which is not a serious matter. Hulk is good. He used to be like that just because all of you don't understand him. Li Qingyun once provided Banner with the Hulk's daily scenes in the form of a video. After watching it, Banner also understood that although Hulk was irritable, he was not an irrational monster who only knew how to destroy. I know, Banner actually felt regretful after knowing Hulk's situation. Regret his previous reckless behavior. If he had found a way to get along with Hulk earlier, he wouldn't have caused so much trouble in the past. Loki appears. The sound of the big clock suddenly appeared in Li Qingyun's mind. He has entered the Pegasus Project Research Center where the Cosmic Cube is stored, and Hawkeye has been controlled by it. The big clock continued to report the situation. In order to obtain the Infinity Stones, the big clock has long been monitoring the situation of the Cosmic Cube. If it weren't for the fact that he went directly to get the Cosmic Cube, it would probably lead to war with S.H.I.E.L.D., and even might prompt the other party to establish the Avengers. Li Qingyun wanted to take the Cosmic Cube back directly. Therefore, now that Loki has appeared, it can be said that his chance has come. He doesn't need to wait for the establishment of the Avengers, nor does he need to wait for the New York War to come. What he needs is a reason. A reason to possess an Infinity Stone with a legitimate reason. Next, no need to train. Li Qingyun temporarily suppressed the excitement in his heart and remained in his normal state. However, there is no need to practice fighting next. What's wrong? Banner was a little confused. Something happened to S.H.I.E.L.D., and the people are coming towards us. Li Qingyun did not hide the fact that he could know most of the intelligence information on Earth, and Banner had known it for a long time. S.H.I.E.L.D., what could possibly happen to them? Banner was even more confused. S.H.I.E.L.D. was a secret organization with top agents like Black Widow and Hawkeye under its command, and it had branches and allies all over the world. What could possibly happen to them? Chapter 37. This is the opportunity I've been waiting for. Just as Li Qingyun said, the people from S.H.I.E.L.D. came soon. The person who came this time was still an old acquaintance, Natasha Romanoff, codenamed Black Widow. However, what was different from the past was that this time the Black Widow looked very serious. It was completely different from the previous one that made people feel friendly, and from time to time seemed to be as easily surprised and emotional as ordinary people. Perhaps, this is the true appearance of being a Black Widow. The previous ones were just pretended to be better in order to get in touch with a young boy like Li Qingyun. The versatile female agent will show the corresponding appearance according to the kind of person she faces. In front of Iron Man, she showed her sexiness, mystery, and a little bit of coldness. When facing the general who resold arms, she showed her charm, panic after her identity was exposed, and flattered to get out, and finally easily got all the secrets. When facing Banner in the movie, she looked like a timid person. She was scared by Banner's roar and drew her gun, and said in front of him that the crisis was resolved. But if she hadn't behaved like that, would Banner have agreed to go with her to the S.H.I.E.L.D.'s aerospace carrier? Why do you feel a little serious today? Li Qingyun stood at the door, watching the Black Widow who drove the Quinjet directly to the manor and walked quickly from the cabin with anxious steps. I don't have time to chat with you. This time, it's a big deal, Black Widow said in a serious tone. What big event? Isn't it just that the Cosmic Cube is lost? What kind of big event is this? Li Qingyun was still calm. Barton was controlled by the other party, Black Widow was not surprised that Li Qingyun knew the result of the incident. She just pointed out that Barton was controlled. Barton, Li Qingyun pretended to frown. Hawkeye had trained with Li Qingyun for more than 2 months, and he and Li Qingyun and Hulk could be said to be good friends. Director Fury means to gather all of you, and then, Barton, we will go and save them ourselves, Li Qingyun interrupted the Black Widow. At this moment, his expression became extremely serious, as if he was going to avenge his friend who was hurt by someone else. Li Qingyun wanted a legitimate opportunity to take action, and a reasonable reason to get the Infinity Stones. Hawkeye was controlled, and he and Hawkeye were good friends, so he had to rescue Hawkeye. In the process of saving Hawkeye, he snatched the Cosmic Cube and the Mind Staff from Loki, and then the Cosmic Cube was too destructive, and SHIELD even tried to use it to build weapons, so it should not be handed over to SHIELD. This whole set of procedures, the whole plan, was all thought out by Li Qingyun long ago. Do you know where they are? Black Widow looked at Li Qingyun in confusion. With the intelligence agency of SHIELD, even with its full power, it still couldn't find Loki's whereabouts. Why does Li Qingyun seem to know Loki's situation very well? Of course I know, Li Qingyun answered, then turned around and looked at Banner. Hulk, I'm going to save our old friend, are you going? When Li Qingyun asked this question, Banner began to transform. The Hulk in his body soon came out, and his clothes were all torn, leaving only the pants on his lower body. These are special pants, indestructible by swords and guns, and invulnerable to water and fire. In fact, Li Qingyun had long thought about developing a set of special clothes for him that can change with his transformation. But after thinking about it, he gave up the idea. Exposing his upper body, showing his explosive muscles, is actually a manifestation of Hulk releasing his nature. The appearance of Hulk made Black Widow subconsciously step back half a step. But soon she remembered that SHIELD's intelligence analysis of the current Hulk seemed to show that the current Hulk was no longer the monster that would attack crazily once he transformed. Hulk is going, Hulk shouted loudly. Since he was born, he has only known 3 people, Li Qingyun, Hawkeye Barton, and his ex-girlfriend Betty Ross. Now that Hawkeye Barton is controlled by others, how can he remain indifferent? Okay, let's go now, Li Qingyun said. Then he took a step forward and waved his hand to open the space wormhole. I'll go too, Black Widow said loudly. You? Hulk glanced at Black Widow. With that small body, and she was a woman, what kind of fighting power could she have? Do you look down on women? Black Widow's expression condensed. If it was normal, Li Qingyun and Hulk were going to fight, she really didn't have to join in the fun. But this time, they were going to save Hawkeye. It can be said that Black Widow can be where she is today because of Hawkeye. At the beginning, she was an agent of the Red Room, and was blacklisted by SHIELD and was hunted down. In the end, it was Hawkeye who was responsible for hunting her down, who pulled her from the Red Room and became the current SHIELD agent. Hawkeye, to some extent, can be regarded as Black Widow's savior. Forget it, let her come with us, Li Qingyun spoke up and agreed to Black Widow's following. When the fight starts, stay as far away as possible, or I'll step on you to death, don't blame me, Hulk said, and then walked towards the position in front of Li Qingyun. There, an invisible micro-wormhole has been formed. Because he has passed through the micro-wormhole countless times, Hulk can be said to be familiar with it. Moreover, there is a reason why he went there first. He has thick skin and flesh, and conventional weapons and attacks will not cause any harm to him. Letting him lead the way can reduce the chance of accidents. Li Qingyun was the second to enter, and Black Widow followed last. So, in an underground area in a mountainous area in the west of the United States, in a huge laboratory, a battle broke out. This is the secret base where Loki is temporarily stationed. Originally, they were busy making a space teleportation device to activate the power of the Cosmic Cube to open the space teleportation gate. Hawkeye Barton even summoned a large number of mercenaries and was planning to seize the metal iridium. But at this moment, a space wormhole suddenly appeared in the hall. Then, a naked upper body, muscular green big guy rushed out of the wormhole. As soon as he came in, he immediately swung his fist and punched a soldier in the front. Chapter 38 King-Level Configuration. The sudden appearance of Hulk instantly turned the entire base into a chaotic battlefield. Soldiers picked up their weapons and attacked Hulk. Even Loki picked up the Mind Scepter at the first time and shot a strong laser at Hulk. But at the same time when he shot out this light, a wormhole appeared in front of Hulk. Although, the laser shot by Loki may not be able to hurt Hulk. But in Li Qingyun's view, this is an attack from the Mind Stone after all. Even if it can't hurt Hulk, it will make Hulk very painful. He can easily stop something that may threaten his friends, so why should he watch it? Humph! Hulk turned around and looked at Loki, who was holding the Mind Scepter. Li Qingyun appeared beside Hulk, and Black Widow also came behind them at this time. These three uninvited guests who suddenly broke in, at this moment, all stared at Loki, the alien visitor, with a covetous look. "How did you find this place?" Loki looked at the three people in front of him in surprise. Loki knew them, especially the green guy standing on the far left. He was the craziest and most powerful monster on Earth. As for the one standing in the middle, he also learned about it from Hawkeye Barton. In the past year or so, a superhero suddenly rose on Earth. He was only in his early 20s, but he was listed as the top target of observation by S.H.I.E.L.D. In the past 2 months, Hawkeye witnessed the rise of Li Qingyun. At first, a young man who had superpowers but didn't know how to fight at all, was now able to survive the joint attack of him and Hulk. Even in the information provided by Hawkeye, there was information that Li Qingyun had picked up Thor's hammer and gained the power of Thor. Loki didn't have a direct feeling that he could deal with Hulk and Hawkeye at the same time. But picking up Thor's hammer was enough to shock Loki. One of Asgard's most powerful weapons, Odin personally set a spell, and only those who can get the hammer's approval can pick it up and gain the power of Thor. After Thor's hammer was thrown to the earth, Loki also tried it himself. But at that time, he couldn't lift Thor's hammer at all. After Thor picked up Thor's hammer again, he smashed the strongest destructive weapon, the Destroyer, into pieces with just one move. The last one present. "It's actually a female agent," Loki laughed. He didn't expect this lineup. 3 people came, one was extremely powerful, one was very mysterious, and the last one was just an ordinary person. What's wrong with a female agent? A female agent can beat you up just as well. Black Widow's face was gloomy. Loki's smile was clearly mocking her. "Just you," Loki laughed even more wantonly. The taste of mockery was simply full. However, at this time, Li Qingyun was not annoyed by his mockery, but instead raised a slight arc at the corner of his mouth. He knew Loki's plan clearly. It was just to use Black Widow as a breakthrough point to distract the 3 of them, and then let Cell move the cosmic cube and let Hawkeye Barton prepare to launch a sneak attack. Whoosh! A metal-forged arrow cut through the air at a very fast speed and shot directly at Li Qingyun. That was the arrow shot by Hawkeye, and it was the most lethal, the high-temperature melting arrow. When Li Qingyun was practicing with Hulk, Hawkeye had also used this arrow to attack Li Qingyun, but at that time, he did not really activate its melting function. It was just practice at that time. And Hawkeye's intention was to make Li Qingyun realize his failure. If that arrow hit Li Qingyun, even if Li Qingyun caught it halfway, then the result would be that Li Qingyun lost. Because the arrow that melted afterwards would inevitably cause damage to Li Qingyun. And now, the program of this arrow has already been activated. When it reaches Li Qingyun's position, even if it is not caught by Li Qingyun, even if it does not hit Li Qingyun, it will still melt. The molten iron will splash on Li Qingyun, causing him great harm. Hawkeye Barton, after shooting this arrow, immediately shot several more arrows in succession. These arrows were shot at Li Qingyun, Hulk and Black Widow. His purpose was simple, that is, to attack these 3 people at the same time, to force them to react, and it would be best if he could directly injure 1 or 2 of them. "Stop!" Li Qingyun turned his head and just glanced at the arrows. These arrows, just as Li Qingyun thought in his heart, were suspended in the air under his glance. An invisible dark energy appeared around the arrows, as if forming a block space, trapping all the arrows. It took several months to master the micro-wormhole transportation technology, and then practiced in actual combat for more than 2 months. Now Li Qingyun's ability to use wormholes has reached the level where he can control them at will. In addition, he is not relying on himself today as he did in previous practice. In this kind of real battle, he will be equipped with a background computing support of the big clock. In other words, in a real battle, the power he can exert, the speed and efficiency of the application of wormholes, and even the mobilization of surrounding energy, etc., will all be increased several times or even dozens of times. This is the difference between ordinary warriors and king-level warriors. Even though Li Qingyun is now just a second-generation super warrior, even if he has only understood a small part of the capabilities, technologies and combat skills of super god technology. But as long as he knows how to use the computing speed of the big clock to help his battle, he can improve several levels in one fell swoop. There is a dark matter plane space, and there is a big clock in the dark matter plane space. This is already the only top configuration in the super god universe. You go and clean up the others, leave Loki to me. Li Qingyun destroyed all the arrows, punched back, and punched a micro wormhole from his fist, and then quickly moved towards the position of Hawkeye Barton. Hawkeye wanted to dodge, but the dark energy restraints followed, and his body seemed to be frozen. He could only stand there and let the wormhole come and transfer him to another place. To Li Qingyun, Hawkeye was a friend, so he locked him up first, and then let his brain recover after the battle. But other than that, all the others, you can smash them at will. Chapter 39. Why does it always feel like something is missing? Hulk and Black Widow stood up at the same time and rushed towards the other people. Whether they were mercenaries or S.H.I.E.L.D. agents controlled by Loki, Hulk would smash them as soon as he saw them. He had the same idea as Li Qingyun. Except for Hawkeye Barton, who had trained with them for several months, he didn't know the others. And these people all wanted to beat him, so he naturally didn't have to hold back. So, at this moment, Hulk rushed forward happily, waving his fists constantly, hitting anyone and smashing anything he saw. Black Widow followed. Her original goal was to rescue Hawkeye. But now Hawkeye had been transferred away by Li Qingyun using a micro wormhole, and her goal was also transferred. She could see the attitude of Hulk and Li Qingyun when facing the people around them. But among these people, some were from S.H.I.E.L.D., and some had very special identities. For example, Dr. Selvig, who studied the cosmic cube for Loki and made a space teleportation device. Therefore, while fighting, Black Widow was intentionally or unintentionally moving towards Dr. Selvig, and she wanted to control Dr. Selvig. Before Hulk found him and stepped on him to death, Li Qingyun's eyes were on Loki. Li Qingyun didn't care about the other soldiers. He didn't even care about Loki. But the scepter in Loki's hand was something that Li Qingyun was determined to get. Do you want to kneel down yourself, or do you want me to knock you down? Li Qingyun walked towards Loki step by step. Loki showed a sinister smile on his face, but he stood there motionless. You want to use your clone to trick me? Do you think I'm your stupid brother? Li Qingyun turned around and punched behind him. With a bang, the fist hit the armor Loki was wearing. The huge force burst out at this moment, and the strong impact directly blasted Loki, who was originally in stealth mode, back. Li Qingyun has the ability to sense the distribution of dark energy and micro wormholes around him, and the Eye of Insight can see many things that the naked eye cannot see. Although ordinary people cannot see Loki's clone and invisibility, they can be seen clearly in Li Qingyun's eyes. This is impossible. Loki slowly got up from the ground and looked at Li Qingyun with disbelief in his eyes. Absolutely impossible. How can a mortal like you see through my magic? Loki was a little collapsed at this time. In the past 1,500 years, he has always felt that he is a noble royal family of Asgard. But more than a year ago, he suddenly discovered that he was not a so-called royal family, and he was not even an Asgardian. But in the story, he was a Frost clan of Jotunheim who was trampled under the feet of Asgard. Now he has returned from the universe and returned to this earth. He thought he could rule this weak world in one fell swoop and become the king of this world. But this has not started yet. He has only been here for 2 days. How could he fail suddenly, and fail at the hands of a mortal like Li Qingyun, whom he had never heard of before? This mortal could even see through his most proud trick, the most powerful magic. What? It's broken. The capture of dark data by the big clock allowed Li Qingyun to clearly see Loki's chaotic emotions at this time. I am the god of Asgard, and you dirty, lowly ants should be trampled to death by me. Loki was there, roaring madly. Why do I have the urge to grab his feet and smash him to the ground when I heard him say that? Li Qingyun felt that he should do this now. If he wanted to do it, he could do it anyway. Although he didn't have a body as big as Hulk, he still had the strength to swing a person and smash him to the ground. So, he took a step forward, transferred through the micro wormhole, appeared next to Loki, and grabbed one of Loki's feet. With a sudden force, he threw him directly on his head, and then smashed him hard to the ground. Not satisfied with just one strike, he continued to hit the other side. Bang, 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 bang. Several times in a row, each time hitting the ground hard, and then turning 180 degrees, hitting the ground on the other side. After a full set of hits, Loki was already grimacing in pain. Li Qingyun stepped back 2 steps and looked at Loki lying on the ground. This effect is not as good as expected. Li Qingyun looked at Loki, who was still struggling at this time, and kept shaking his head. "Hulk, come here." Li Qingyun looked up and shouted to Hulk in the distance. No, 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 no. At this moment, Loki was completely dumbfounded. His face was full of fear, and tears were about to flow out of his eyes. He had realized what Li Qingyun was going to do. He must have felt that hitting himself like that just now was not enough, and wanted Hulk to come over. Li Qingyun's ability is very strong, but in terms of strength alone, he is really not as strong as Hulk. Moreover, Hulk was truly primal and violent, completely different from Li Qingyun's sudden idea of wanting to give it a try. If Hulk were to come, he would probably be sweating and breaking into pieces this time. "I beg you, I give up, don't let Hulk come." Loki really wanted to cry. He was a prince of Asgard. How could he fall to such a state today? If he had done things in a glorious way. If he could summon the Chitauri army. Even if he lost, he would be considered a respectable person. At least, he proved his strength to the people of Earth. But what's going on now? He just crossed over. He just got the cosmic cube. All this hasn't even started yet. How come he has encountered these 2 evil gods, Li Qingyun and Hulk? Not only did they want to ruin the plans, but they also wanted to use him for fun. Can you give me, the second prince of Asgard, a little bit of face? Leave me a little bit of face? Li Qingyun doesn't have time to care about so much. At this moment, he always had a picture in his mind. If he didn't realize it, he would always feel like a lump in his throat. "Hulk!" Li Qingyun shouted. Hulk, who was punching a mercenary into the wall in front of him, also turned around at this time. "What's wrong?" Hulk asked. "Come here, grab him, and try it like I just did," Li Qingyun said. Oh, Hulk was at a loss, but he still came over immediately. Don't, please." Hulk didn't think too much. He sprinted over and grabbed one of Loki's legs. Then, the classic scene appeared. Chapter 40 gives me this feeling, so cool. Bang, bang, bang. The rapid sound of the falling, the brutal movements, the perfect violent aesthetics. Hulk's huge body and brutal movements seemed to be doing the same thing as Li Qingyun just now. But the effect was completely different. Sure enough, Hulk was still a professional at this. Li Qingyun, I hate you. Loki's eyes were filled with tears, and he spoke with difficulty. Wow. This guy is really resistant to falling. Black Widow also came over at this time. She also witnessed the whole process of Loki being thrown and beaten by Li Qingyun and Hulk one after another. He is a god after all, and his body's ability to withstand blows is not weak. Li Qingyun naturally knew Loki's situation. It was precisely because he knew that he asked Hulk to come. Poor god, Hulk complained with disdain. But it was his subconscious complaint that made Li Qingyun feel refreshed. Yes, just this little feeling was missing. When watching a movie, the most cool moment in the whole movie is this moment. This classic scene is finally copied. Alice, Black Widow, looked at Loki, who was lying on the ground and couldn't move at all, and sighed and shook her head. Although this is an invader, it is hard not to cite his bad luck at this moment. Why did he meet Li Qingyun and Hulk? One has a clear mind and is completely unpredictable. The other is childish and violent. Li Qingyun felt relieved and no longer paid attention to Loki at this time, but turned to walk towards the cosmic cube. During this period, when he walked past Loki, he picked up the Mind Scepter and threw it into the dark matter plane. Black Widow saw Li Qingyun walking towards the cosmic cube and immediately followed him. Naturally, she also observed Li Qingyun's action of taking the Mind Scepter away. This Mind Scepter was not used by Black Widow to close the space door opened by the cosmic cube like in the movie, so the whole world does not know how powerful it is. After all, the moment the energy of the cosmic cube was shut down, the people of S.H.I.E.L.D. knew that the Mind Staff had the same power as the cosmic cube, and the same level. So even if they didn't know it, they would pay special attention to it, and S.H.I.E.L.D. even came forward to compete with the Avengers for its control. But Black Widow also understood that something that Li Qingyun could take away subconsciously must be something extraordinary. However, the existence of the cosmic cube was obviously more important than the Mind Staff. And from Li Qingyun's performance, he seemed to care more about the cosmic cube, and his goal from the beginning was the cosmic cube. Seeing that Li Qingyun was about to reach out to take the cosmic cube, Black Widow quickly interrupted. This thing has extremely terrifying energy, it should be kept by S.H.I.E.L.D. While speaking, Black Widow seemed to subconsciously fiddle with the hair beside her ear. Her little action was not easy for ordinary people to see. But Li Qingyun already knew the identity of Black Widow, and he immediately understood what was going on with this sudden action. Coupled with the constant monitoring of the big clock, Black Widow's actions could not be hidden. Li Qingyun did not stop Black Widow's small actions, and he did not care. S.H.I.E.L.D. knew what he was going to do next. Give it to you? So that you can use it to make weapons, Li Qingyun complained, and then he grabbed the cosmic cube directly. The moment his fingers touched the cosmic cube, a hot breath came instantly. Li Qingyun frowned slightly, but his hand movements did not stop at all. The heat of the cosmic cube, if placed in the hands of ordinary people, can directly tear the skin and flesh. But for Li Qingyun, it was just like holding a slightly scalded steamed bun. The cosmic cube is the key to our development of eternal energy. Our shield, come on, what eternal energy? Do you think I'm a fool? Li Qingyun did not let Black Widow finish her words. This official statement may be enough to deceive ordinary people, but anyone with a little brain and knowledge of S.H.I.E.L.D. will not believe it. Hulk, take Loki with you, we're going back. Li Qingyun casually threw the cosmic cube into the dark matter plane space. Turning around, a space wormhole opened in midair. Oh, Hulk agreed, then dug Loki, who was lying on the ground, out of the pit, and threw him on his shoulder. The two entered the space wormhole one after another and left here directly. Black Widow looked around, then took out a device from her pocket and threw it on the ground. This is a device that can send a signal so that the people of S.H.I.E.L.D. can find this underground base. After leaving this device behind and making sure that the mercenaries around could not wake up in a short time, she took Dr. Selvig and entered the wormhole together. At the same time, high in the sky above the Pacific Ocean, in an invisible aerospace mothership, Li Qingyun has found Loki and has subdued him. He is now returning to his manor with Loki and the cosmic cube. Agent Hill reported to Nick Fury the information just received from Black Widow. In order to find Loki, we activated all the hidden forces of the entire S.H.I.E.L.D., and even contacted Iron Man and Captain America. In the end, the other party solved everything in less than half an hour. At this moment, Nick Fury felt a sense of shock. They are S.H.I.E.L.D. It has been decades of time, countless resources and funds to create the largest agent organization on Earth. But now, their entire organization has mobilized all its forces, but they can't do it, but Li Qingyun can do it so easily. How can people not be shocked? What should we do now? Hill also knew that Li Qingyun's ability in this regard was indeed better than theirs. But the problem now is that the cosmic cube was taken away by Li Qingyun, which is something that the entire S.H.I.E.L.D. cares about very much. Even the congressman has been keeping a close eye on all this. The cosmic cube must not be placed in the hands of any earthling. Nick Fury didn't have to get the cosmic cube, but he would not let the cosmic cube fall into Li Qingyun's hands. He was not very familiar with Li Qingyun, and he even felt that he might be a threat. The threatening words Li Qingyun had said to him at the beginning were still echoing in his mind. If it happens again, there will be no S.H.I.E.L.D. in this world. This was a person who was more difficult to control than Iron Man and Hulk. Chapter 41, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s response. Turn around right now, let's go to Li Qingyun, but we have an agreement with the Eastern Power, Hill reminded. Although they are also one of our Security Council members, we still need to report in advance when entering their country, and we can only operate under certain conditions and within a certain range. If we want to drive the aerospace carrier over there, I'm afraid we will be intercepted before we even reach the border. The big country in the East is different from other places. It took S.H.I.E.L.D. many years to gain the qualification to allow its agents to enter its territory to a certain extent. For example, in order to find Loki's whereabouts this time, they monitored the cameras around the world, and they also sought permission from the Eastern Power in advance. Now, they want to drive this huge aerospace carrier over there. How could the other party agree? Contact Senator Yan immediately and tell him the specific situation. I hope he can ask for consent from his country for us to allow our aerospace carrier to enter, Nick Fury said, and Agent Hill immediately called Senator Yan at this time. The 5 major members of the S.H.I.E.L.D. Security Council are representatives sent by the 5 major countries. Wang Yan was the person sent by the Eastern Power to be in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D. affairs. Agent Hill sent an application to Senator Yan. Half an hour later, they received a response, and a communication screen also appeared in the aerospace carrier. However, it was not only Senator Yan who appeared in the screen, but also 4 other senators. Even the Secretary General of S.H.I.E.L.D., Alexander Pierce, was there. Any weapons of mass destruction are not allowed to enter our territory, territorial waters, or airspace. This cannot be changed. Senator Yan spoke first, and the other senators all looked a little ugly at this time. They obviously all wanted the S.H.I.E.L.D. aerospace carrier to go directly, but the attitude of the Eastern Power was unusually tough. We don't want to offend your territorial sovereignty, but the problem now is that Li Qingyun has brought the cosmic cube and Loki to your territory, Nick Fury said. We will send someone to deal with this problem. Senator Yan's attitude was very firm. This matter has already involved superheroes, alien invaders and supernatural energy. We have an agreement that such incidents should be handled by our S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury first pointed out the areas involved in the incident, and then the common agreement they had reached after discussing in the past. The Eastern Power attaches great importance to credibility, and this may be a breakthrough in successfully resolving this incident. Then do it according to the content of our agreement. Congressman Yan did not mean to violate the content of his agreement. Your S.H.I.E.L.D. will send representatives, and then our people will assist. Moreover, the aerospace carrier and all your fighters and equipment with high-powered lethal weapons are not allowed to enter our airspace. Letting S.H.I.E.L.D. participate in the handling of supernatural incidents is indeed the content of the agreement. But not allowing S.H.I.E.L.D. to interfere in the events within the territory of the Eastern Power alone, let alone not allowing S.H.I.E.L.D. to enter the Eastern Power at will, is also the content of the agreement. Sending 1 or 2 agents here and leading an army here are 2 completely different things. Is there no room for negotiation? Nick Fury wanted to fight for it again. This is the principle. Senator Yan's attitude was clear. Then can I make one last request? Nick Fury knew that it was completely impossible to let the S.H.I.E.L.D.'s aerospace carrier enter the airspace of the Eastern Power. Say it. I want to bring Iron Man and Captain America with me this time. Nick Fury did not say the names of these 2 people, but mentioned their titles. The reason is very simple. He wanted to tell Senator Yan that these 2 people are superheroes. They went with their own weapons and abilities. Senator Yan also understood that this was to deal with the uncertain factor of Li Qingyun, so he did this. After all, ordinary soldiers and agents alone could not handle this matter. In half an hour, our people will meet you outside Li Qingyun's manor. Senator Yan cut off the communication. He had already gone to arrange things in the Eastern Power. The other 4 members, as well as the Secretary General of the Security Council of S.H.I.E.L.D., Alexander Pierce, were not offline at this time. They were all looking at Nick Fury. The Cosmic Cube must not be left in the hands of the Eastern Power. Gideon Malik, one of the 5 members of the council, represented the United States. At this time, he finished saying this sentence, and then disappeared. The other 3 congressmen also left one after another, leaving only Alexander Pierce. Agent Hill, who was originally behind Nick Fury, had also left at this time. Only Nick Fury was left in the conference room. You should understand what the congressmen mean. Alexander Pierce looked at Nick Fury and said in a seemingly very peaceful tone. The Cosmic Cube has destructive power. Leaving it to any country is likely to bring about a devastating disaster. I will find a way to get it back into the hands of S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury naturally understood what Alexander Pierce and the other 4 congressmen meant. These so-called senior government officials, what they think in their minds is really too easy to judge. I believe you, you will handle it. Alexander Pierce just said this sentence, and then cut off the communication. Nick Fury turned around and walked out of the communication conference room. Next, it was to wait for Iron Man to arrive. Let Iron Man and Captain America go together, and then Nick Fury personally led the team. This seems to be the best result that their S.H.I.E.L.D. can do. At the same time, in Li Qingyun's manor, Li Qingyun was playing with a cosmic cube in his hand. In front of him, there was a big clock showing him specific information about SHIELD. Although it's not the same world, my eastern country is still as principled as ever, Li Qingyun sighed softly. He originally thought that SHIELD would send Black Widow to him from time to time, and even showed up with a team of soldiers last time. He felt that there was a big gap between this eastern country and the world he came from. But now it turns out that everything is within the scope of authorization of a big country. This is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There is no SHIELD here. SHIELD is the only organization that handles supernatural events worldwide. But even so, if SHIELD wants to enter here, it still has to report and seek the consent of the big country. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42, The Cosmic Cube is Indeed Dangerous. Gideon Malik, Alexander Pierce, this shield is really awesome. 5 senators, a secretary general and a director. Among the 7 senior executives, 2 Hydras have sneaked in. Li Qingyun has the big clock, and he can know everyone's information. Originally, he only knew Alexander Pierce, and knew that he was the leader of Hydra, the one who planned the entire Insight project, and the core member of Hydra's paperclip project. But now, through the big clock, he found this Gideon Malik. The number of Hydras lurking in this shield and the position they occupy have already reached a level that can influence all decisions at any time without knowing it. They are coming for you now. How are you going to deal with it? The big clock learned the details, but how to deal with it specifically still depends on Li Qingyun. Let them come, they will definitely come anyway. Li Qingyun didn't care too much about it. As early as the moment he decided to seize the Infinity Stones, he knew that there would be a direct conflict with S.H.I.E.L.D. The Cosmic Cube is so famous on Earth. When the first superhero was born, the first supervillain he faced was the one who used the Cosmic Cube as a basis to try to rule the world. After that, S.H.I.E.L.D. found it, and Howard Stark wanted to use the Cosmic Cube as an opportunity to find eternal energy, and then the Pegasus Project was born. Although the Pegasus Project eventually led to the emergence of Captain Marvel, it was not known to many people due to Nick Fury's deliberate concealment. But S.H.I.E.L.D. still knew very clearly how amazing the power of the Cosmic Cube was. Isn't the so-called second phase plan in S.H.I.E.L.D. now based on the Cosmic Cube to study the latest weapons? Half an hour later, a large number of armed personnel began to appear outside Li Qingyun's manor. This time, it was different from the armed force led by Black Widow before. That time, Black Widow led the team, S.H.I.E.L.D. was the core, and the agents of the S.H.I.E.L.D. office here were drawn to participate in the operation. But this time, Nick Fury led the team himself, and Iron Man, Captain America, and the Eastern Power were the core of each other. This is a joint participation of multiple forces, and each party cannot fully trust each other. However, the troops of the Eastern Power seem to be only conducting vigilance work, and what they are preventing is the possibility of violent conflict. In the end, only 3 people entered the manor. Nick Fury, Captain America, and Iron Man. Nick Fury and Captain America are obviously standing together, but Iron Man is wary of them. The reason is simple. He does not understand S.H.I.E.L.D.'s past practices and he doubts S.H.I.E.L.D.'s true purpose. Is the Cosmic Cube for the study of eternal energy? Since it is for the purpose of finding eternal energy, why avoid Iron Man, who has the most outstanding research results in clean energy engineering? Therefore, Iron Man thinks that S.H.I.E.L.D. must be hiding something behind it. And Li Qingyun, this guy. Iron Man's eyes are locked on the gate of the villa in the manor. The last time he saw Li Qingyun, he was still a poor boy who had nothing and could only sit in a roadside breakfast shop and eat porridge and noodles. But now, he has lived a rich life like himself. Thinking about the fact that the energy development plan left by his father was used by him to make a deal, Iron Man felt that he was at a disadvantage. I was tricked by that guy, Iron Man sighed. But just after he sighed, he took off his iron armor and walked towards the door of the first floor of the villa in the form of an ordinary person. After removing the armor, Iron Man turned back into Tony Stark. He was a genius scientist, a playboy, a millionaire. Actually, it was not quite right. He should be a billionaire, or even more. Stark just walked to the door and it opened by itself. In the hall, there were Li Qingyun, Bruce Banner, Natasha Romanoff, the bound Loki, and Barton lying on the sofa. Hawkeye's mind was controlled by Loki before, and now he has recovered his consciousness with the help of Li Qingyun. But his controlled brain made him feel extremely tired, so he could only lie down at this moment to relieve himself. Loki was the worst one. He was beaten up by Li Qingyun first, and then hit by Hulk. He was in pain all over his body, but he could only stand by the sofa with his hands tied, watching quietly. Stark entered the hall first, followed by Captain America and Nick Fury. They all felt weird when they saw the situation in the room. But they couldn't tell what was weird for a while. Sir, seeing Nick Fury, Black Widow stood up first. She is an agent of SHIELD, and her position can be said to be clear. Black Widow is different from Barton. Barton is exhausted and can only lie down, and he can't report anything. I already understand the situation, Nick Fury said, and he didn't let Black Widow report it again. He turned his head and looked at Li Qingyun sitting on the main seat, with a gloomy expression on his face. That face was a few points darker than his original skin color. Do you know what kind of dangerous thing the cosmic cube you took away is? Nick Fury's voice contained 3 parts of questioning, 3 parts of restrained, and 4 parts of temptation. Nick Fury still couldn't figure out what Li Qingyun was up to. He had to see how Li Qingyun would deal with him on this issue. I know, otherwise how could you use it to build weapons? Li Qingyun's seemingly casual answer, but this sentence instantly made Stark and Captain America's faces gloomy. Using the cosmic cube to build weapons, this is not related to studying eternal energy, it is completely contrary to it. Sure enough, their initial worries and guesses were right, and SHIELD did hide their true intentions. Build weapons? Nick Fury wanted to explain something, but at this moment, Li Qingyun took out a black, special gun and threw it directly on the table in front of the sofa. The black gun had no muzzle, but it clearly gave people a feeling of full firepower. The most important thing is that where the magazine is located, there is a ball of blue light, which is a strong gamma energy. Chapter 43 The Intentions of the Great Powers. The appearance of this gun immediately stunned everyone at the scene. Except for Captain America, the rest of the people here are either scientists or top agents. They can naturally recognize what this gun is. Even Captain America doesn't know this gun, but he can recognize the blue energy slot on the gun. Because, when fighting Hydra before, Hydra used this thing in its weapons. Phase II plan? What is your first phase plan? Oh, right, the Avengers. When Li Qingyun said this, he glanced at Iron Man and Dr. Banner beside him. Iron Man is the first person recruited by Nick Fury in the Avengers. And Banner, to be more precise, the Hulk, is the second person Nick Fury wants to recruit. The first generation of the Avengers has a total of 4 superheroes, plus 2 super agents. Superheroes are uncontrollable, but super weapons can be. Do you think so? Li Qingyun looked at Nick Fury casually. But at this moment, every word that Li Qingyun said, which entered Nick Fury's ears, made him feel very uncomfortable. At this time, Nick Fury already understood that Li Qingyun must have mastered some ability, and he could control the confidential files of S.H.I.E.L.D. at any time. But the problem now is that he doesn't know how much Li Qingyun has mastered, and he doesn't know how much this guy will say today. Many of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s practices are indeed inhumane, but sometimes, in order to better achieve our goal of protecting the Earth and protecting mankind, we need more guarantees and means. Nick Fury finally spoke, because he couldn't let Li Qingyun continue to speak so disorganized. He couldn't let Li Qingyun reveal more secrets. Put a gun to people's heads and tell them that it's safer this way, Li Qingyun asked back, and his words made Nick Fury silent again. It's not that Nick Fury didn't want to refute, but that Li Qingyun, who was facing him at the moment, was like a transparent person, and all his secrets were seen clearly by Li Qingyun. You said so much, are you planning to take the cosmic cube in your hands? Iron Man knew that Nick Fury would not really want to study the eternal energy, so he did not want to really listen to Nick Fury's orders and help Nick Fury work. But Iron Man also had his own ideas. He studied the cosmic cube for a whole night and was very clear about the danger of that thing. Therefore, he would not let others get the cosmic cube. Isn't it safer to put the cosmic cube in my hands than in your hands? Li Qingyun said this truth. Infinity Stones in Li Qingyun's hands can only be used as a reserve energy at most. But if they fall into the hands of these people, no matter who they are, the result will inevitably be bad. Nick Fury will use it to study weapons, and Iron Man may also use it for development. How can you be sure that it is safe in your hands? No one will believe Li Qingyun, just like Li Qingyun will not believe them. Boom. At this time, thunder flashed in the sky. Lei Ming's appearance made Li Qingyun frown slightly. Loki, who had been standing in the hall without saying a word, also subconsciously looked out the window. I received a message from Wang Yan. The voice of the big clock sounded in Li Qingyun's mind. Wang Yan? Is he the senator in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D. affairs in the eastern country? Li Qingyun was puzzled. Yes, he hopes that you can leave the cosmic cube, and he hopes to meet with you privately after you have dealt with these things. The big clock directly told Li Qingyun the content of Wang Yan's message. He didn't come in with the S.H.I.E.L.D. people. So it seems that what they want to talk to me about is to avoid S.H.I.E.L.D. An hour ago, the country's top leaders held a meeting. After discussion, they decided that they hoped to join forces with you to establish a supernatural organization affiliated with the country. Sure enough, the country is not going to stand idly by at this time. Li Qingyun understood the real intention of the country's arrangement. Even though SHIELD was established to protect the Earth, after all, it is an organization built around the United States, and the country cannot completely trust them. In the past, no superpowers were found in the country. Wen Wu and the Ten Rings gang were also hidden, so they had no idea in this regard. But now that Li Qingyun has appeared, and they already know from Li Qingyun's daily life that he is not a person who will do whatever he wants with his superpowers, so they want to find him. Give them a reply and say that I am willing to cooperate with the country. We will discuss the specific details after this incident is over. Li Qingyun has no hesitation about this. Although he came from a time travel, he has a great affection for this country no matter which world he's in. If he can do something for this country, he is happy. Moreover, Li Qingyun has the big clock, and he has the foundation to become a god. But the development of a god cannot be achieved by one person alone. Let alone the construction of the dark matter plane space platform. If there is not enough resources to support it, it cannot be built by one person alone. The Xiangbinglian has the foundation of the super seminary, but it still has to rely on the Black Great Wall to develop. What's more, Li Qingyun is a person who has nothing except the big clock. Therefore, cooperation with the country can be said to be a win-win situation. He can bring changes to this country, and this country can also help Li Qingyun become stronger. Rumble. The thunder outside the house became more violent. At the same time, the rolling clouds gathered together and covered the sky. Li Qingyun knew that this was the Thor coming. Because the Rainbow Bridge has been destroyed, he can only use Odin's power to drive dark energy to open the space transmission and transfer him to the Earth. So the movement caused by his appearance was not ordinary. P.S. Cooperation with the country is both sentimental and for resources. The so-called resources do not simply refer to materials, such as manpower, which is also a resource. In my opinion, it is impossible to make a god by relying on one person alone. Behind the gods, what is often needed is the support of a civilization. Did the death god Karl, who left the super seminary with a big clock, settled down in the dark nebula and then led the rise of the TOD civilization and secretly cultivated the four horsemen of the void? P.P.S. Odin has the ability to use dark energy to teleport people. In Avengers 1, Loki said this after seeing Thor. It's just that Odin is obviously not very proficient in the use of dark energy, otherwise Loki would not have said, "How much dark energy does Odin need to teleport you to your beloved Earth?" Chapter 44, Confused Thor. Finally, with a loud bang coming from the manor, Thor fell from the sky. The lawn on the ground was severely damaged by the impact of his landing. "This is Li Qingyun's lawn. Dare to destroy my lawn? Take the hammer." Li Qingyun waved his hand, and the hammer originally held by Thor was immediately pulled by a strong force and flew into the house. Thor, who had just landed, was very excited. Because his dear brother was still alive, but his brother became an invader of the Earth. But at this moment, he was stunned. How could this hammer fly away by itself? Since the hammer was taken away by Odin once, Thor now loves his hammer very much. Seeing that the hammer was about to fly away, he immediately held it tightly. "Let go," Li Qingyun shouted suddenly, and then pulled it hard with both hands. Although it was in the air, Li Qingyun also had the qualifications to pick up Thor's hammer, and he did it unexpectedly. This loud shout made Thor, who was already confused, even more confused. He almost subconsciously looked up at the house, and the moment he looked up, the hammer flew out of his hand. But the direction where the hammer flew out was exactly inside the house. Thor didn't care about so much and hurriedly chased after it. When he walked into the house, he saw clearly that Thor's hammer was actually in Li Qingyun's hand. "How can you hold Thor's hammer?" Thor was shocked. Thor's hammer was sealed by Odin. Only those who are worthy of it can hold it, and anyone who can hold Thor's hammer can have the power of Thor's hammer. On Earth, there are actually people who can hold Thor's hammer? I picked it up the last time it came to Earth. "Don't you know?" Li Qingyun said casually, while throwing Thor's hammer up as if playing. "How is this possible?" Thor didn't believe it. He really didn't know last time that someone had picked up the hammer before him. Because when Li Qingyun picked up the hammer, he was still trapped in the hospital, sedated, and could only sleep in bed. "He did pick up the hammer at that time," Black Widow added. She witnessed Li Qingyun picking up the hammer with her own eyes, and also saw Li Qingyun smash the whip rope into pulp with one hammer. The sense of the picture was too strong, and it was hard to forget. This is impossible. Before, it was not belief, but now it was shocking. Moreover, the hammer was indeed in Li Qingyun's hand. Like a toy, Li Qingyun was playing with it. The atmosphere in the hall seemed to be relieved a lot at this time. The movement caused by the appearance of Thor had already attracted everyone's attention. Now Thor's shock, Li Qingyun's understatement, and Black Widow's intentional or unintentional interruptions also eased the tense atmosphere. "Give me back the hammer." Thor was still shocked, but his first thought at this time was to take the hammer back. Without the hammer, he has no power, and he lacks a sense of security. The god of hammer, he didn't understand the truth that the power of the gods comes from himself until Odin died and Hela came out. "Go out and pave my lawn, and I will return it to you." Li Qingyun will not indulge Thor. That is his lawn, the lawn he can see through the window every morning when he wakes up. The main thing is that Thor, the god of thunder, came here with a fierce momentum. If his arrogance is not suppressed, he might come in and start a fight. This is Li Qingyun's home. If it is destroyed, he will feel distressed. Thor felt speechless. He is the god of thunder, the prince of Asgard, and the future king of the gods' domain. Why do you have to let me accompany you when I come to your house and trample on the grass slope for you? Go. If you don't pave it, I will never return the hammer to you. Li Qingyun's attitude is very firm. Don't think about robbing it by force, he warned. Now the hammer is in my hand, and I have all your original divine power. Besides, I can snatch it from you when you hold the hammer. Just think about it. Can you still fight me without the hammer? Li Qingyun was making a naked threat. With a hammer in his hand, he also had the ability of a super soldier. Now that Thor has not yet awakened his divine power, Li Qingyun can really suppress him. Okay. I'll go and spread the grass. Okay. Thor was also forced to do so. He never thought that he would end up like this after coming here with such a fierce momentum. Just because he stepped on a lawn, his hammer was snatched away, and he had to spread it for others before he could get it back. He's Thor. Puff. Looking at the back of Thor turning around and walking out of the hall, Loki, who had been forbearing, finally couldn't hold it back anymore. Is it funny? Li Qingyun turned his head to look at Loki, and the others around him also looked over. Your thinking is so strange. Thor will never understand why he stepped on the grass and got into so much trouble. Loki was no longer afraid of being beaten by Li Qingyun, because even if he was beaten, he couldn't help laughing. He found that there was another person in the world who could restrain Thor. He was not stronger than him, but he was completely restrained in ability and had strange thinking, which made Thor completely confused. So, you are quite smart. Li Qingyun knew that Loki had figured out the reason why he did this. This god of mischief had a good brain. Thor came here aggressively, and he must be extremely emotionally unstable. He might take me away by force if we don't agree with him, and he will also snatch the cosmic cube from you, so I took his hammer off first. Without the hammer, Thor's recklessness is directly removed by more than half, and he is shocked and frightened, and his mind can't think straight at all. Let him go out and lay the lawn for you. By the time he finishes laying the lawn, I guess he will be sober. Loki said all the reasons why Li Qingyun did this in one breath. Iron Man, Captain America and others all nodded secretly after hearing Loki's analysis. Just looking at the scene of Thor falling from the sky just now, maybe he's really like what Loki described. Very smart, Li Qingyun nodded in appreciation. But don't have any crooked thoughts? I know what you are thinking. Li Qingyun has already sensed Loki's active mind at the moment. No, Loki shook his head. It's not that he didn't have any thoughts. He even planned to escape a long time ago. But no matter how hard he thought, it seemed unlikely to succeed. Li Qingyun could see through his magic at a glance, and without magic, as long as he ran away, Li Qingyun would catch up immediately. The result of being caught by Li Qingyun. Thinking of the scenes that happened before he was caught, Loki felt his whole body tremble at this moment. Those scenes have become a lingering shadow in his life. Chapter 45 Attention from Odin. Half an hour passed in the blink of an eye. The confused Thor finally repaved the lawn outside. When he returned to the hall, the atmosphere here was no longer as serious as before. Nick Fury, Captain America, and Iron Man all found chairs and sat in the hall. Even Loki sat cross-legged on the ground. They were all waiting for Thor to come back. Originally, The biggest conflict among everyone present was the ownership of the Cosmic Cube. The appearance of Thor and Loki's analysis of Thor had made Nick Fury and Iron Man realize that Thor might be the one who could take the Cosmic Cube in the end. In fact, in Li Qingyun's heart, he also felt that Thor would take the Cosmic Cube. I have already dealt with it. Can you return the hammer to me now? Thor's tone was much gentler now. Here, Li Qingyun threw Thor's hammer over without hesitation. Thor took the hammer and held it in his hand. He also put the leather belt at the end of the hammer handle directly on his wrist. He couldn't let the hammer be taken away by others, especially Li Qingyun. Is it that serious? Li Qingyun complained in his heart, but didn't say it out loud. Now, you can tell me why you are here. Li Qingyun looked at Thor, and Captain America, Iron Man and others were also looking at Thor. The Asgardians, when Thor first came, he almost destroyed a town. And this time, Thor's brother came first, and then Loki destroyed a military base. If Li Qingyun hadn't found Loki accurately and caught him directly, I'm afraid there would be a bigger commotion. Therefore, all of them were wary of Thor who came now. I'm here to stop Loki, Thor answered, but after he said this, he felt embarrassed. Loki is now in the house, and his hands and feet are tied. Why does he need to stop it here? Don't you want to check the situation before you come? Li Qingyun knew that there were two people in Asgard who could directly observe what was happening on Earth. The guardian Heimdall and the father of the gods Odin. I came too hastily and forgot to check, Thor answered awkwardly. What are you going to do now? Li Qingyun no longer bothered about whether he had checked or not. Since Thor had already come to Earth, it was impossible for him to say nothing and do nothing. Before I came, my father told me that my mission was to bring Loki and the Cosmic Cube back. Thor didn't know what to say, so he could only tell his mission goal. Bring Loki and the Cosmic Cube back. Li Qingyun shook his head helplessly. All of this was exactly as he thought, and it was exactly the same as the situation in the movie. By the way, he also said that there is someone on Earth who also has the power of Thor, and he wants me to know what kind of person this person with the power of Thor is. Thor seemed to suddenly remember something and quickly added. As he finished speaking, his eyes were fixed on Li Qingyun. The person who possessed the power of Thor was definitely referring to Li Qingyun. Because Li Qingyun had just really picked up Thor's hammer. Being able to pick up Thor's hammer would give you the power of Thor. This was the spell that Odin had personally left on Thor's hammer. Haha, I can actually make the father of the gods think of me. Li Qingyun smiled helplessly. He had long thought that the fact that he had used Thor's hammer before might be known by Odin, and would attract his special attention. Now it seemed that everything was just as he thought. Odin really knew about it. And he still remembered it. Thor came over to stop Loki, and he didn't forget to investigate him. My father just wanted to know what kind of person you are, Thor explained. After all, those who can hold Thor's hammer must be recognized by Thor, and to be recognized by Thor, that's, okay, there's no need to explain so much to me. Li Qingyun was too lazy to listen to Thor continue. It's nothing more than protecting the weak, dying for others, and defending justice. Does Li Qingyun have that kind of quality? He didn't really rely on good qualities to gain the recognition of Thor's hammer. He just used the powerful algorithm of the big clock to directly bypass the spell cast by Odin on Thor's hammer, making Thor mistakenly believe that he has such a character. Let Li Qingyun sacrifice his life to protect others? Impossible. Mastering the power of Thor is irrelevant, but now, you can't take the Cosmic Cube away. Li Qingyun directly brought the issue to the most critical issue. The Cosmic Cube was originally stored on Earth by Asgard. Why can't I take it away? Thor expressed his confusion. You put it on Earth? Then don't you know that this thing is very dangerous? Ask him, how many times has this thing caused such a catastrophic event that almost destroyed the entire Earth? Li Qingyun pointed at Captain America while speaking. The Cosmic Cube is indeed very dangerous. Decades ago, someone wanted to use it to create destructive weapons and wanted to rule the world with it. Captain America directly took over Li Qingyun's words. The Cosmic Cube itself is not dangerous. It is you who want to use it to create destructive weapons, so you will bring disaster to yourselves. Thor does not think that Odin's handling of the Cosmic Cube is wrong. We can create weapons because your appearance makes us realize that there are still threats in the universe. Nick Fury seized the opportunity and quickly cleared himself. He wanted to fight for it again and take the Cosmic Cube back. But it is precisely because you want to use the Cosmic Cube to create weapons that you will attract attacks from other civilizations in the universe, because in their eyes, this is you preparing for advanced war. Thor directly retorted. We didn't run to other people's homes and mess up their homes. Nick Fury was still refuting. If you keep making so much noise, I'll kick you all out. Li Qingyun's words immediately silenced Thor, who was about to continue talking. Nick Fury couldn't say anything more. After all, this was Li Qingyun's home, and Li Qingyun was obviously not an ordinary person. He was able to subdue Loki, was good friends with the Hulk, and could even lift Thor's hammer. If he was irritated here, no one would feel good. Chapter 46. What are you afraid of? The fate of the cube triggered a fierce battle. Well, that was the opening of Transformers. But the problem now is that the cosmic cube itself is still the focus of controversy on Earth. S.H.I.E.L.D. wants to take it back. Thor also wants to take it away. Senator Yang has long sent a message to show that they also want to get the cosmic cube. In fact, Li Qingyun also wants the cosmic cube. The big clock needs an energy source, and the Infinity Stones can be said to be the best energy source. But Li Qingyun also understands that at this stage, he can't just keep the 2 Infinity Stones on him. Although, there are basically no people on Earth who know that the Mind Scepter is also an Infinity Stone. The reason why I say basically is that the Ancient One is likely to know. But Thanos, who sent Loki to Earth, must know. Although it is impossible for Thanos to come to Earth to find him at this time, the cosmic cube itself is too eye-catching. Any force on Earth knows that it has the power to destroy the world. Odin needs to use its power to repair the Rainbow Bridge. If he kept the cosmic cube with him, it would be like causing endless troubles for Li Qingyun. Although Li Qingyun is now a second-generation super soldier, he has the Thor factor and has gained the ability to use lightning. But Li Qingyun still doesn't want to make such a big problem all at once. The water of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is too deep. If it is not necessary, there is no need to dive too deep at once. The cosmic cube is in my hand, and I have the final say on where it should go, Li Qingyun said, and his words immediately attracted the attention of everyone around. They all hoped that Li Qingyun could give the cosmic cube to them. First of all, S.H.I.E.L.D. will never take it back. Li Qingyun was the first to kick S.H.I.E.L.D. out. Nick Fury's face darkened, but he also understood why Li Qingyun made such a choice. They S.H.I.E.L.D. have a criminal record. Secondly, Iron Man can't take it away either. You can't keep it. Iron Man never said that he wanted to take the cosmic cube, but he had this intention, and Li Qingyun could see it. I'm just curious. If you decide to stay here, you can call me when you need to study. Iron Man didn't care too much. What he said at this moment was exactly what he thought in his heart. Unlike Nick Fury, who said one thing but thought 10 or 8 things in his heart. This kind of person has too many tricks in his mind. Not only is he not suitable to be friends, but even if you just know him, you have to be wary of him. Thor. Li Qingyun finally looked at Thor. However, he just wanted to speak and took his words back. What's wrong with me? Thor was puzzled. Give you the cosmic cube. It seems that there is nothing wrong with it, but why do I always feel that if I do this, I will suffer a lot? Li Qingyun never thought about getting the cosmic cube from the beginning. But now, the cosmic cube is in his hands. Just because you said it was something from Asgard, I have to give it to you? Is there such a good thing in the world? Even if there is, it would be great if others gave it to you, but if you let yourself take it out and give it to others, wouldn't you be a complete idiot? Are you trying to extort money? Stark saw what Li Qingyun was thinking. When he came to Li Qingyun to discuss the deal, Li Qingyun's expression was similar to this one. Is he trying to get benefits? What do you mean by extortion? Am I extorting money? Li Qingyun was unhappy. Why should he give away the things he got for free? He just wanted some benefits. How could it be extortion? You don't want my hammer, do you? Thor subconsciously held the hammer in his hand tighter. Hey, you reminded me. Li Qingyun seemed to have suddenly realized something. But Thor, who was sitting opposite, became more nervous when he saw Li Qingyun's expression. He immediately did a backflip, flipped from the sofa to the back of the sofa, and kept a distance from Li Qingyun. He was ready. If Li Qingyun wanted to take the hammer this time, he would run away. If Li Qingyun forced him, he would fight with Li Qingyun. In short, no one can take his hammer. What hammer are you afraid of? Li Qingyun was completely speechless. You are the god of thunder? Is it necessary to be like this? But in fact, Thor is afraid of a hammer now. He is afraid that Li Qingyun will take the hammer away from him again. Thor, the current Thor, loves the hammer in his hand the most. Super love. Not only because this hammer is the source of his power in his eyes, but also a symbol of his recognition by Odin. Why did he summon Thor's hammer when he already had Stormbreaker in Avengers 4? It was to verify whether he could still get the recognition of Thor's hammer, whether he was still the god recognized by his father, Odin, the father of the gods, who could lead Asgard to light. What a man wants most in his life is the recognition from his father. Don't worry, I won't snatch the hammer from you, Li Qingyun had no choice but to explain to him quickly. I want a weapon made by you Asgard, not your hammer, weapon. Thor hesitated, looked at the hammer in his hand, and then looked at Li Qingyun. Finally, after making sure that Li Qingyun was not looking at his hammer, he slowly approached again. However, he did not sit down again. Is your elder brother so timid before? Black Widow could not help but turn back to ask Loki. Alice, Loki shook his head helplessly. It was also the first time for him to see Thor like this. They had lived together for more than 1,500 years, and he had never thought that the fearless Thor, who dared to break into the lair of the frost giants because of his instigation, would have such a scene today. Things that are lost and found are the most precious. He once lost the hammer, and now he has found it again, so he cherishes it even more. Captain America did not think Thor was funny. He knew that Thor did this not because he was timid, but because he cherished it. When Thor first arrived, Li Qingyun took Thor's hammer from him. Li Qingyun has proved that he really has the ability to take the hammer away. In this case, without knowing whether Li Qingyun would really do that, he would naturally be cautious. Just like when you were a child, your favorite toy was taken away by the kid next door. Although you took it back, you would always carefully hide the toy when you see the kid next door. Chapter 47 Void Level Weapon, Heavenly Sword. Among your Asgard allies, is there a place called Nidavellir? Li Qingyun wanted a weapon, but not Thor's hammer. Although Thor's hammer is very powerful, Li Qingyun doesn't like the hammer. However, he didn't know what kind of weapon he wanted. Do you want the dwarves to help you make a weapon? Thor was really relieved now. He relaxed his grip on the hammer a little, and even sat back on the sofa. I need a weapon, but among the people I know now, there should be no one who can make better weapons than the Nidavellir people. Li Qingyun is a super soldier. He is actually not weak in his own combat power. Just like the previous battles with Hulk and Loki, he could easily deal with them. But Li Qingyun still wanted a weapon. Not only because weapons can greatly improve his combat power, but also because he likes the feeling of fighting with weapons. Cassius Silver Wings, Liu Chuang's God-killing axe, Morgal's demon claws, Hizai's Star Fate. It seems that Star Fate is not exclusive to Hizai, but she is also very strong in controlling it. A precise strike from 50 light-years away, if Hizai hadn't deliberately sent it out to track Morgana and Ruining to fight, Ruining would never have been able to take it away with that little ability. I can help you with this, Thor agreed decisively. As long as Li Qingyun didn't come to take his Thor's hammer, let alone help Li Qingyun find the dwarves to make a weapon for him, even if he asked him to give him a set of armor, he would be willing. Let's make it clear in advance that the weapon I want must be forged with the same material as Thor's hammer. Since Li Qingyun wants a weapon, he definitely can't ask for those ordinary ones. Don't worry, no problem, Uru metal is rare in the universe, and there are not many in Asgard. But if you want to make a weapon, you can still find it. After all, the weapons of many people in Asgard are made of Uru metal, and even the destroyer that was previously sent to Earth and smashed by Thor was actually made of Uru metal. They have to make it according to the drawings I gave you. Li Qingyun continued to say his request. No problem, Thor agreed readily. Where are the blueprints? I don't have any ready-made ones. You have to wait for me for 2 days and I'll design them. Li Qingyun didn't rush to give an answer right away. First, he hadn't thought about what weapon he wanted, and it was not easy for him to let the big clock draw the design blueprint for him in front of these people. No problem, since they were here, it was just a matter of waiting for 2 more days, so Thor naturally wouldn't mind. Then it's decided. You stay here for 2 days and I'll give you the blueprints after 2 days, Li Qingyun made the final decision. As for the others, do what you have to do. I don't have that much rice to entertain you. Li Qingyun ordered Nick Fury and others to leave. Nick Fury, Captain America, Black Widow and Hawkeye Barton did not stay for too long. Li Qingyun had made a decision, and it was obvious that Li Qingyun chose to make an exchange with Thor, using the Cosmic Cube in exchange for a weapon, so the Cosmic Cube would naturally not stay on Earth. The Cosmic Cube arrived in the God's domain, which was also a perfect solution. As for Stark, he did not leave. Although Li Qingyun ordered him to leave, saying that there was not enough rice at home. But Stark directly asked someone to airlift a truck of food and put it in the manor. He even found the best chef in the end, brought the best ingredients from all over the world, and made dinner for Li Qingyun directly in the manor. He really played a word game with Li Qingyun. Moreover, rich people are too willful. Although Li Qingyun is also a rich man now, he still doesn't enjoy it as much as Stark. After enjoying the delicious meal, Li Qingyun returned to his room. As for Stark, since he insisted on staying, let him stay with Banner, the two scientists together. Thor naturally stayed with Loki, because Thor had to guarantee that Loki would not run away again. However, with a big clock, Loki couldn't run away even if he wanted to. Big clock, what weapon do you think I should make? Li Qingyun was still thinking about what kind of weapon he should get. First of all, he didn't like the hammer, so the hammer was not considered. But he had never thought about what other weapons to use. Here I have the design of the Sword of Heavenly Destruction. Sword of Heavenly Destruction? The one who you used? Li Qingyun's eyes widened suddenly. Is the Sword of Heavenly Destruction so exciting? This is the highest level weapon in the Super God universe so far. Of course, the highest level does not mean the strongest. In Keisha's hands, even the Void Warriors would have to kneel. Huyi's Sword of Heavenly Destruction was just average. The big clock made an evaluation. The reason why the Sword of Heavenly Destruction is so strong is that it relies on the Void Engine, not the sword itself. Yes, without the Void Engine, it is indeed average, Li Qingyun said. The difference between weapons with and without the Void Engine is huge. How did Ruining, whose combat power is not as good as that of Angel Chase, finally defeat Angel Chase? Isn't it because of the Void Engine suppression on the technical level? Yes, in this case, it's useless for you to give me the design of the Scientia sword. Without the Void Engine, even if I let the dwarves make it with Eurometal, it will just be an ordinary long sword, right? Li Qingyun suddenly thought of a crucial issue. Apart from other things, the most critical issue of the Scientia sword is the Void Engine. Although the big clock has the technology of the Void Engine, to manufacture the Void Engine itself involves the most advanced technology core in the Super God universe. Can it be handed over to the dwarves to build? Moreover, the materials needed for the Void Engine itself must be very expensive. I'm afraid it requires void matter or black hole matter as a basis for manufacturing. And Li Qingyun doesn't have void matter and black hole matter at all. You can let the dwarves forge the overall part of the Scientia sword, and make the core Void Engine part yourself. The big clock gave a solution. What about void matter? Void matter must have been produced during the Big Bang. We should be able to find it by searching in the universe with relevant data. Looking for a needle in a haystack? Are you sure you can do it? With infinite energy, the algorithm can be infinitely accelerated. Finding one or two pieces of void matter is not a problem. The plan proposed by the big clock is based on existing materials. It is precisely because Li Qingyun already has an infinite gem with infinite energy, such as the mind gem, that the big clock can search for void matter in the universe without reservation. Sorry, I can't remember it clearly. I just went to find a picture and found that it was called the Heavenly Blade Sword. But I clearly remember it was the Heavenly Death Sword. It said that on the day when the mellow heaven was broken, all angels would die. Maybe I remembered it wrong. In addition, that one needs ink to be exchanged, and I can't upload a picture. Chapter 48 Searching for Void Matter Throughout the Galaxy. The best solution for making weapons given by the big clock is to directly create a void-level weapon, the Sword of Heavenly Destruction. However, the prerequisites required for this solution are also extremely demanding. First of all, you have to understand void technology. Fortunately, Li Qingyun is bound to the big clock, and it is the big clock after the latest plot of the Super Seminary. Void technology, black hole engine, 5th generation divine body, etc., are all available. This solves the second point of the technical problem, which is that there needs to be void matter, and it is more difficult to get void matter. The big clock has detailed information on void matter, which can be used to search directly in the universe. But void matter is too rare, and the big clock may have to search the entire Milky Way to barely get one or two. And to search the entire Milky Way, the energy required must be extremely huge. If it relies solely on stellar energy, it may be necessary to drain several or even dozens of suns in one breath. Fortunately, this time Li Qingyun just got two infinite gems. The Mind Gem and the Space Gem. Although it has been agreed that the Cosmic Cube will be used to exchange with Thor for a weapon made of Eurometal by the dwarves of Nidavellir, Thor can still use it before leaving the Earth. Moreover, The Great Clock has found a better way to use the cosmic cube. Through the ability of the cosmic cube to open space channels, all the stars that can be found in the universe can be directly opened, and then the energy of other star systems can be transferred through the cosmic cube to directly improve the computing efficiency of the Great Clock. In this way, perhaps a portion of void matter can be collected in a shorter time. With a plan and resources, Li Qingyun naturally did not delay at all. As for Thor's eagerness to return to Asgard, this is also easy to deal with. Just find a reason to delay. Anyway, Thor doesn't dare to use force with Li Qingyun. Because if he uses force, Thor can't beat Li Qingyun. Li Qingyun has the Thor factor, and can also snatch control of Thor's hammer from Thor. Thor, who has not awakened his divine power, is simply nemesis. In a blink of an eye, a week has passed. How is it? How much void matter have you collected? Li Qingyun asked curiously. The scarcity of void matter in this world is even more serious than I originally calculated, the big clock replied. What do you mean? Li Qingyun frowned. I have expanded the scope of the search to the entire Milky Way, but so far, I can only find enough void matter to barely get one. Hey, that's okay. Li Qingyun shook his head indifferently. They said they would find 2 copies, leaving one for me to upgrade the void engine, but I am only a second-generation gene now, and I can't withstand the energy impact brought by the void engine. I can't install it even if I find it. It's good enough to find one now to make a void core for the Xianxia sword, my share. I'll slowly look for it in the universe later. Li Qingyun knew that he could find void matter in the universe. When he was looking for the Xianxia sword that he was about to build, he naturally thought of finding it for himself. After all, the void engine is still very powerful. Angel Yan and Zhi, 2 third-generation god-level warriors with void engines, are almost invincible below the main god level in the Super God universe. In the later period, the strong men in the Super God universe all have gene engines above the void level. With void controller, black hole engine and the like, even the main god like Reina is suppressed. But the void engine cannot be armed just by arming. Angel Yan and Angel Zhi installed the void engine, sub-biological engine, but were clearly told that once the void engine was forcibly started, they would be killed by its huge energy. Therefore, only when they were killed can they activate it, and then use the energy impact of the void engine to revive themselves. This logic. It can be turned on directly, but it is just a resurrection from the dead. In the final analysis, it is still influenced by the idea of justice and order. But one thing is certain, if the void engine is not installed before the third-generation god body, it will definitely not be able to withstand it. Unless it is directly transformed into a pure mechanical body like Shi Heng. Because it is a machine, it is not afraid of the destruction of life forms by void matter. The cosmic cube has agreed to be used to exchange weapons with Thor, so it is not good to delay here for too long. After all, he has to rush back to repair the Rainbow Bridge before he can go to other areas of the 9 kingdoms for judgment. Li Qingyun knew why Thor was so anxious to get the cosmic cube. Since he has found a piece of void matter, let's do it for now. First give the cosmic cube to Thor, and then let him go back to help him make the sword of heavenly killing. And Li Qingyun can also use this void matter on Earth to start building a void engine. When the main body of the sword of heavenly killing is completed and sent by Thor, he only needs to assemble the black hole engine into it, and you can truly own this void level weapon, the sword of heavenly killing. It takes time to upgrade the divine body, and building the dark matter plane space is a huge project. But having a void level weapon is a simple thing. Once the sword of heavenly killing is completed, it will undoubtedly increase Li Qingyun's combat power by a large margin. All this is already very good. Don't be too greedy, you can't chew too much. This is the design. A printed design appeared in Li Qingyun's hand. This is a very detailed design. From the appearance of the Xianxia sword to the various internal structures, the drawings are clearly displayed. Thor, who was opposite, looked at the design. Except for the appearance of the sword with a hole at the top, there was nothing special about the others. Thor couldn't understand the detailed analysis drawings below. However, the dwarves of Nidavellir were the smartest and most skilled blacksmiths in the 9 kingdoms, and they would definitely understand. The cosmic cube, and the device you want to activate the cube. Li Qingyun took out the cosmic cube again, and there was also a device that was the same as the one used by Loki and Thor at the end of the movie. Remember what we agreed on? You have to send me the weapon as soon as the Rainbow Bridge is repaired, otherwise the next time you come to Earth, I will just take your hammer. Li Qingyun was not kidding Thor. If Thor really didn't keep his word, He would never be polite to him next time Thor came. "Don't worry, we are from the God realm, and we stick to our word," Thor answered affirmatively. He lifted the device containing the cosmic cube and asked Loki to stand on the other side of the device. The two of them turned the device at the same time, and then a blue light appeared, taking the two brothers together and flying into the sky. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49 Mechanical Technology of the Super God Universe. Thor, the god of thunder, and Loki, the god of mischief, went back just like that. They took away the cosmic cube and the promise to Li Qingyun. A sword of Xianxia made of Yoru metal. The power of this sword must be strong, and with a void engine core that Li Qingyun later made of void matter. The finished sword of Xianxia might be stronger than the original one in Hui's hand. "What about you? What are you going to do now?" Li Qingyun turned his head and looked at Stark. "This Iron Man has been staying here for more than a week. When Banner leaves, I will leave." Stark has his eyes on Banner. As a genius scientist, there are really few scientists that Stark has met in his life who can talk to him academically. But Dr. Banner is obviously one of them. Dr. Banner, who can work with Stark to create the Veronica system, will definitely be able to research a lot of good things as long as he is willing to work with Stark. "Then you should just go." "I don't plan to leave here." Banner's answer was very clear. "If Hulk stays here, he will be absolutely safe. If he goes to Manhattan with you and goes to your Stark Tower, the situation will be hard to say." Banner came to Li Qingyun with a tried attitude. But now, he has clearly known that Li Qingyun can control Hulk 100% here. And this Hulk is not just non-destructive. This time, the appearance of Loki could have turned into a major incident. But Hulk helped Li Qingyun and solved the problem directly. Hulk is the most suitable person for Li Qingyun no matter how you look at it. You have learned how to control Hulk now. It doesn't really make any difference whether you leave or not. Stark felt that he could communicate with Hulk like Li Qingyun. Didn't Hawkeye Barton become Hulk's friend? "But I like it here, the environment here, and the atmosphere of this city." Banner actually wanted to say that he liked being with Li Qingyun. However, it seemed a bit embarrassing to say this between two grown men. But Banner was a person who had been lonely for a long time, and had spent long and tormenting days under extreme tension, fear, and depression. It was his luck to meet a friend like Li Qingyun who helped him get rid of all his troubles. Li Qingyun could be said to be the first person who took the initiative to accept him and treated him as a normal person since he had the power to transform into the Hulk. "Okay, I understand what you mean." Stark understood that he had already lost the initiative. "Hey, kid, you're lucky." Stark turned around and looked at Li Qingyun. "I'm very lucky." Li Qingyun did not deny this. "You have a good place here, with two top scientists." In Stark's eyes, Li Qingyun is also a scientist, and his potential is unfathomable. "I can't be here all the time, but I will come here often in the future." Stark stepped back a few steps, stretched out his hand, and began to summon his armor. This was the upgrade of the Mark 6 model that he and Dr. Banner completed in more than a week. Originally, this was a function that Stark Mark 7 only had, and it was still in the testing phase. But with the help of Dr. Banner, he completed this process directly on Mark 6. It will be regarded as an invasion to enter another country's airspace without permission. "You'd better report it next time you come," Li Qingyun reminded. "I will," Stark replied, and at the same time, Mark 6 had finished dressing. Mark 6 is the first new energy mecha. This is a new armor that Stark finally upgraded with a plan left by his father from Li Qingyun. And now, he has completed the upgrade of another model in advance, making it have the functions of Mark 7. It is estimated that after returning this time, he will be able to build Mark 7 directly, and the performance will be better. This is the scientific improvement caused by the collision of ideas between scientists. Of course, it is also affected by some technologies from Li Qingyun. During the few days he stayed here, he saw some new things in Li Qingyun's laboratory. Some artificial intelligence devices are being manufactured. However, Stark couldn't understand why these artificial intelligence devices were obviously very advanced, but there was no artificial intelligence system. These artificial intelligence devices were actually prepared by Li Qingyun for the big clock. Li Qingyun had already decided to build the Void engine himself. But with Li Qingyun's limited skills, even if he became a super soldier, he would not be able to become a top-notch technician in a short period of time. So, he decided to let the big clock do it himself. And in order for the big clock to do it itself, the first thing is to have some mechanical equipment controlled by artificial intelligence. Because of this, Li Qingyun prepared artificial intelligence equipment early. First, buy the commonly used ones from the market, then use the commonly used ones to make new ones, and then use the new ones to update the new ones. In short, the entire artificial intelligence equipment must be upgraded to a sufficiently sophisticated level, and then it can provide sufficient technical support for the future manufacture of the Void engine. This artificial intelligence you made is really powerful. Li Qingyun carefully examined the machines in front of him and was shocked by the technical content contained in them. After the god of death Karl went to the Dark Nebula, although he helped the TOD civilization develop to the level of aerospace technology, he did not actually make them his helpers, so, he began to build machines to assist his research. The first batch of robots equipped with Void engines were the robots he developed. The technology possessed by the Great Clock is based on the technology that has already appeared in the Super God universe. It is precisely because the god of death Karl once highly developed mechanical technology for research that the Great Clock now also has such high mechanical technology. Robots equipped with Void engines should be those purple, huge robots, right? Li Qingyun remembered watching the animation of Super God Academy. When Zixin and Zhaozhen were dating, it should be more appropriate to say pairing. Zixin flew directly to Earth and said she wanted to marry Zhaozhen. I was convinced when I saw it. There was a robot that suppressed Zhaozhen throughout the whole process and almost wiped out Zixin directly. Yes, including Shiheng and others in the TOD Legion, they are actually robots, it's just that their intelligence is not artificially created. Instead, their original brains are converted into data and implanted into the machine, the big clock replied. Chapter 50, Thought is the leading factor, technology is the auxiliary factor. The mechanical technology of the Super God universe is absolutely top-notch. Although it seems that the Super God universe often shows super soldiers and the like. But think about it carefully, the mecha warriors of the TOD Legion, as well as the huge celestial spacecraft, plus the celestial computer with extremely powerful computing power. How could the mechanical technology of the Super God universe be weak? The reason why it seems that there are not many mechanical elements is just because the performance of the super soldiers is better. With your technology, I can actually do a lot of things directly, right? Li Qingyun looked at everything in the laboratory in front of him, and gradually had more ideas in his mind. He is a super soldier, and it has only been more than a year since he went from being a mortal to now. But the big clock is not. The big clock has been the top existence in the Super God universe since the beginning. It has a huge database with countless advanced technologies. You can indeed get more Super God technology directly through me. The big clock has those data. Except for the adaptation stage required for the upgrade of super genes, many other technologies can be provided directly. Just like the weapons built by the Void engine, they already exist in the big clock, so Li Qingyun doesn't need to start from the flame class weapons at the beginning. Just skip everything and get it right in one step, and the final result is the Void class weapons. Even Li Qingyun's own life experience is not like that of the time travelers in other novels. After the time travel, one event after another, and dangers appear again and again. These are impossible to happen with the big clock. On this earth, Li Qingyun can know everything that happens at the first time. For example, now, the people of Hydra are secretly discussing to send people here to find trouble with Li Qingyun. Through the investigation of S.H.I.E.L.D., they know that there is a weapon that can control people's minds. The Mind Scepter is in Li Qingyun's hands. Therefore, they plan to send an elite assassination team here. These Hydra plans are very good. They want a killer to attack Dr. Banner directly. Banner was assassinated, and the Hulk who transformed in the dying state would inevitably enter a violent state, and Li Qingyun's attention would be attracted by the Hulk. Their elite team could take the opportunity to sneak into Li Qingyun's manor, quietly enter the laboratory, and move everything away. But no matter how sophisticated and perfect such a plan is, what use is it to Li Qingyun? The big clock has already read everything, even the detailed information of each member of the assassination team they sent, and the thoughts in their brains. Li Qingyun didn't bother to pay attention to these Hydras at all. He directly published all their information on the internet in one breath. Then, a war between S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra suddenly broke out. Even Iron Man, who had just returned to New York, was involved. In fact, Hydra was exposed too suddenly. And they saw all the information of Hydra at once and confirmed the identity of each Hydra. There was no need to doubt each other and be confused about the situation like in the movie Captain America 2. The data released by the Big Clock is by no means a simple exposure of secrets. It is to directly pull out everything that has happened to their ancestors from the 18th generation to the present day. And it is all clear to you. Hydra's plan, how many people are there in Hydra, where are the bases of Hydra, and what is hidden in their bases. Everything is clear and detailed. With the Big Clock, no one can do anything to Li Qingyun in this small broken ball. Of course, some people who are particularly awesome are excluded. What about the supreme magician who can knock out a person's soul with one palm and see through the past and the future? However, even if the Big Clock cannot read the specific information of the supreme magician, its ability is already strong enough. Super soldiers, or gods under super god technology, cannot reach the peak by relying solely on external forces. There is a reason why the Big Clock did not prepare everything for Li Qingyun directly. At the beginning, it received a mysterious instruction to let Li Qingyun become a super soldier step by step. But why is it like this? Why not give the Big Clock an instruction directly, so that the Big Clock can directly help Li Qingyun to advance in the simplest and fastest way? With the ability of the Big Clock, control the machinery on the earth and create a powerful robot assistant. Then use robots to help Li Qingyun complete the manufacture of super gene drugs, and then mobilize the dark energy in the universe to upgrade it. Then directly equip him with powerful armor, weapons, spaceships, robot legions. But the Big Clock did not do this, and the person who gave the original instructions to the Big Clock did not order it in this way. If you really trace the reason, it may be because of the need for growth. Li Qingyun needs to experience the process of becoming a super soldier from an ordinary person, and needs to think clearly by himself about what to do next. Moreover, when doing all this specifically, you have to learn the corresponding technology. Just like now, Li Qingyun is most familiar with the micro-wormhole transportation technology. The Big Clock can directly provide wormhole algorithms, but the Big Clock is only auxiliary after all. If Li Qingyun himself cannot directly issue the correct instructions during the battle, the Big Clock cannot immediately perform the correct operation. Just like the power of the galaxy with the basic configuration of the Supreme God. When he first awakened, it was the power of the galaxy. But his understanding of super soldiers is still a mess. He doesn't even know the simplest principle of micro-wormhole transportation technology. He is the most special god on the universe, the only one with the power of anti-void, but he can only use this power to shout silence. The Super Seminary's guidance to Jedi Island is to hope that he can learn little by little and understand what is the power of the galaxy. Later, Zixin's direct appearance helped him to force a path of promotion. With the help of Shinra No. 7 sent by Angel Yan, Jedi Island made rapid progress in just a few years. The Big Clock only provides technology and assistance. The mysterious man behind it at the beginning only gave the simplest instructions to guide him. This way, Li Qingyun can think about how to become a god and how to make the best use of all the resources in his hands. He thought of using infinite gems as a supplementary energy source for the Big Clock. Therefore, the Big Clock later obtained a stable energy source that was not afraid of consumption. He thought of making weapons for himself. So now they are preparing to make void-level weapons. The sort of heavenly killing. He thought that he could control mechanical equipment to complete some operations that he was not familiar with. So, there is this mechanical workshop in front of him. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.